Recording in progress. Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock. Welcome to Bedminster Township Committee. This is our June 21st regular Township Committee meeting. I recognize that we have a full attendance by Township Committee. We've got Committeeman Stevenson, Committeewoman Moreski, Committeewoman Fernandez in attendance, and Committeeman Hickey is attending remotely. Ms. Ray, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Sure. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News, Somerville, Burnsville News, Whippany, and to all subscribers and posted at the municipal building on January 7th, 2021.
Great. Thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so before we start the meeting, do what I've been doing since the beginning of the COVID crisis, run through the numbers. Bedminster's total cases remain at, well, they don't remain, they are at 431. Which I believe is a slight uptick. I think it's one or two from a previous meeting. And we remain at 5 fatalities. The vaccination rates. So this data, once again, comes from the state vaccine dashboard. And for Bedminster, and this is first go through the residents who've had at least one dose. All ages. 66% of Bedminster residents have had at least one dose. Ages 18 and over, 75%. Ages 65 and over, 98%. Compare those numbers to 4 weeks ago, which is, this information is also on the state COVID vaccine dashboard. All ages 61%, so that went up 5%. 18 and over, 72%. It's now at 75%. 65 and over, 96%. And that went up 2%. And for fully vaccinated, all ages are now at 58%. 18 and over, 68%. 65 and over, 92%. Compared to 4 weeks ago, all ages fully vaccinated, 51%. 18 and over, 61%, 65 and over, 88%. So in those last 4 weeks, we've gone up, and certainly we're seeing that those increases diminish. So essentially the rate of acceleration of folks who are running out to get vaccinated is decreasing. Colin, I know this is something you probably want to cover when you do Board of Health, but since that was a comment that you heard from Jim Norgalis from the county, let's do a quick detour. If you just want to address what Jim was discussing at the Board of Health meeting.
Sure, Mayor. So the numbers mirror very closely what you just talked about for Bedminster. So about 60 to 70% of adults in Somerset County are in the vaccination pipeline, meaning they've had at least their first dose. They may have had their first or their second dose. There are about 20 to 25% of the population of Somerset County that will likely never get the vaccination. As you know, it's obviously an individual choice, but as Jim said jokingly, you know, if you offered these folks vaccine to take the vaccine in exchange for a trip to heaven, they'd probably say, you know what, I'll take my chances in hell. They will not go for the vaccine. So that leaves about 5 to 10% of the remaining population. But those folks are hard to reach. They're the shut-ins, they're the homeless, et cetera. So the feeling is it will probably take 5 to 10 times the amount of effort to reach that final 5 or 10%. And they're anticipating it'll take about 4 to 6 months to get them fully vaccinated. The good news is in the county, and you've been referencing this, there were 0 new cases reported one day last week, which was a milestone. It was a first. But because of the declining numbers, the Rutgers vaccination clinic has closed, and the RBCC clinic is closing at the end of this week. By the way, the uptake by the 12 to 17-year-old population, which is now eligible for the vaccine, is very, very low. Obviously, Parents are concerned about their kids getting the vaccine. It's also, it doesn't fit the model of, we as adults might go to a vaccination clinic, or we might go to the CVS or the Walgreens. But in this case, the vaccine would likely be administered by the family doctor on a recommendation. And, it's slow in coming, because it's when the child has their next regular appointment where the doctor might recommend, hey, it's time to get vaccinated. So they are seeing a very, very slow uptick in that particular population.
And Colin, was that were those findings being confirmed by Dr. Agathis in her practice?
Yes, matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, Mayor. She's seeing the exact same thing. Really, in order to vaccinate the youth, they are going to need a confirmation from a trusted person, notably the family doctor. She saw the exact same thing.
So it's interesting, just once again, coming back to the vax rates that we're seeing here in Bedminster, I've had the feeling that sooner or later, we're going to start plateauing, consistent with what Colin heard from the county, that I think we're going to plateau for across all ages, probably in that 75% area. For 18 and over, it's going to be a little bit higher. For 65 and over, it's at 98%. Do I think it's really at 98%? Probably not, but we know that there's some glitches in the state database and how they're assessing those numbers. Once again, there are towns in New Jersey that are showing up at 171% vaccinated rates. I think one town was even at 180%. So, trust the data for what it's worth. But all in all, this is good news, and certainly on the data that I'm getting from the county on confirmed cases in Bedminster, I think the last few days just one. So that's a good sign. Some other items that we've talked about before, Pingree. So maybe I should say Purnell. So you've heard me mention about Purnell, and I was indicating that there might be some news forthcoming, even though the agreement has not been finalized, and certainly the acquisition itself has not been finalized. Pingree issued a press release last week indicating that they are finalizing the plans for the acquisition of the Purnell campus. I did have meetings with both Purnell, and then a meeting with a few meetings with Purnell, and then one meeting with Purnell and Pingree, talking about the campus and the opportunity to really engage with Pingree if they were to acquire the campus, and what that engagement could mean, and what it could mean for Bedminster, both in terms of recreation facilities, library, all the other services we work with. We had a great relationship with Purnell, and I believe that we'll have perhaps an even more vibrant relationship with Pingree as they move into the campus. And their plans are to keep it, obviously, in education, and to keep the preserved areas, or the areas that are undeveloped, to keep those undeveloped. They'll be using it for, the intention certainly is some dormitory space for kids. Pingree is a day school, but this gives the opportunity to bring kids from around the country, maybe from overseas, and to do some boarding similar to what Purnell is doing, and also, just like Purnell, faculty housing. So the opportunity of some faculty housing, all the attributes that Purnell has. Asium, if anyone hasn't seen it, it's right. You've done clinics there, right?
Yep.
That's great.
Practices up there. It's very nice facility.
Great tennis courts. And at one point there was discussion about perhaps, doing some tennis clinics that could be worked through either rec or in conjunction with the school. So Pingree was, intrigued by that idea as well. So there'll be perhaps some opportunities coming up. So I think this is just great. I think it's great for Pottersville. Certainly keeping it in education is a lot better than some of the alternatives that were being thrown around about reworking that campus. And something else that I wanted to mention at the last meeting, but I forgot, was on June 5th, I attended the butterfly release at Crossroads for Hope. Now, you may remember the butterfly release, but you may not be familiar with the term Crossroads for Hope. So that was previously known as cancer support community. So the Bedminster facility essentially had an agreement with Cancer Support, which is a national organization, and lent its name to our group here in Bedminster. But that relationship went a little bit different, and they decided to go independent, no longer be connected directly with Cancer Support Community. So they're doing the same services, but it's now known as Crossroads for Hope. And they believe that this independence gives them greater opportunity to serve the Central Jersey community. And once again, it's a great organization for cancer patients, cancer survivors, and families of those who are afflicted or touched in any way with cancer. And just a tremendous support institution. And we're glad to have them here in Bedminster with their new name. So Crossroads for Hope. And thank you everyone from Crossroads for Hope who participated in the butterfly release. Okay, we are now at time for public comments. So we have three ways for the public to make comments. One is if you're here in person, and we have a couple, to come up to the microphone. Second is if you are attending the meeting by telephone, you can, since it's a Zoom call, and if you're attending by phone, dial *9, and that'll put you in the queue for public comment, and Ms. Ray will recognize you when the time comes up. And if you are participating on your computer, move your cursor down to the bottom of the screen where it says participants, and a raise hand icon will pop up. Click on raise hand, and that will put you into the queue for public comments. So let's first go through telephone and computer.
Okay, I have Jeff King.
Okay. Mr. King, your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey King. I'm at 24 Elizabeth Parkway in Eatontown. Just attending the meeting because I was concerned. I have a dear friend who's a medical cannabis patient, and it's been a rough road getting access to the medicine that he needs at the dispensaries in New Jersey. The quality and the price is very distasteful, to say the least. So there's a stigma that he suffers under with cannabis. Some people don't believe it's medicine, and some people just feel that he wants to get high. And if he wants to medicate in public, sometimes he's been pushed aside or pushed away, and it's sad. I've seen it myself, and it's like a discrimination because he's sick, and this is his medicine, and it's sad. I don't know why people can take OxyContin for medicine in public, and that's acceptable. People who are intoxicated in public aren't really stigmatized that same harsh way as they should be. So I just wanted to say that the patients really, they don't mean any harm, and just think of them when you make cannabis policy. Please think of people who are sick and suffering and how you can help them. People in wheelchairs and people who are just struggling just to make it through regular life, let alone some of the extra challenges that they face. So thank you very much for the time to speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Ms. Ray, anyone else?
Not seen any others online there.
Okay, let's go live in person with the microphone.
Well, I think Marie's doing a presentation.
Marie, you're
on-
doing your presentation, unfortunately, towards the end of the meeting.
Well, she was hoping to do it in the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, then we'll do it after we're not gonna do it during public comment. Name and address.
Kevin Ryan, 60 Riverwood Avenue, 25-year resident of Bedminster. Very proud of the whole city, town, from Public Works to the Recreation Department, to the Police Department, Fire Department, volunteers here. Spectacular. It's been a great place to live.
Thank you, Kevin.
Do have one concern though. My street, my neighborhood, specifically Bedminster Village, has been, the streets, since I've lived there, have always been in flex type of situations where, you know, we don't have curbing, we don't have the sewer systems that has, or the drainage system has always been wacky. My neighbor has had flood in her basement several times due to the water main that broke, you know, several times over the last 3 to 5 years or even more. So we waited on the water company to fix that, and I'm thankful to the board that they got the water company to come here and fix that for us. We just, you know, we lucky to get some gas run up the street. So I understand why we were in a waiting period for all these things to happen, so we didn't have to re-dig up the road like we did 15 years ago when they put the drainage in, and then someone came and dug up the tunnel. But anyhow, my question is, we've been waiting, and I think everyone here knows that the streets haven't been the greatest. I'm just wondering why it took the night of the water company to pave it, you know, halfway, that we come up with $100,000 resolution to look into the drainage. This should have been done 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and said, you know what? When this all gets done, we're on top of it, and we could have used the water company's money that they put into repaving half the streets, or, you know, in some places 90% of it. I don't know why we didn't go all the way across, but why we didn't use that opportunity to get the job done and done right. Last time we paved, it was 15 years ago, so it should have been on the docket that it's going to need to be repaid. Last year, I believe, I'm not a paver by trade by any means. They paved on top of the millings. They milled it, they put the millings right back down, and they paved on top of it. It lasted maybe 5 years solid, and then after that, it started to, the sides of the road started to deteriorate. In front of my house, you know, the gutter has always been deteriorating because the runoff goes down there. I'm just wondering why we waited, and can we finally get it fixed? We have four or five neighbors that have cobblestone curbings. Some has a river rock curbing. It's not consistent. It doesn't look like a neighborhood, and I think that we deserve better, and we deserve a neighborhood that looks nice. People are putting a lot of money into their homes, and for property values, and I would think, you know, the tax values, it would go up. I don't know. I don't understand why we just left this neighborhood, one of the original neighborhoods of the town, and we just left it to be what it is. You know, to everyone do your own thing. Some people put their own money, $5,000 into putting curbing in. I mean, to me, either we have curbing or we don't have curbing, or, you know, let's make it look nice. That's all. It's all the residents are asking. Make it look nice. You go up there now, it looks like a wreck. It looks like a construction zone. It doesn't look appealing. And you know, a lot of people have spent a lot of time in our homes the last year and a half. And people are, you know, making them look nice, and I don't think town has reciprocated in making the road look nice. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. And so this is, this neighborhood is my neighborhood as well. And, you know, we got our street paved, I guess, what, 2 years ago. And Riverwood looks horrible. And frankly, after New Jersey American Water, that next day when they had finished, I drove, Kevin, I went down your street, went down Wildwood, and I sent a text to some folks in town saying, Wildwood looks like someone made the decision to do 80% of the width. Like, that's absurd. Like, why did New Jersey American Water give instruction, or did their contractors make a decision to pave 80% of the road and not finish it off? And also on Riverwood, so coming up the hill onto Riverwood rather than the Wildwood stretch, still looks horrible. I mean, you've got this one side, I'm not even really sure what New Jersey American Water did. If they did, obviously they had the temporary repair for when they replaced the water line, which.
Put a hole in the main line.
Right, but on the paving side, and by the way, even putting that whole main in, for anyone, on Hillside, we used to see that seep coming right in front of, Greg's house. There was a water seep, and it would seep when it hadn't rained. And now we know why Hillside was falling apart, because for a couple different reasons, but one of the reasons was there obviously was a leaky water line. And I know that, I think New Jersey American first was going to do another patchwork repair, and Colin and Doug, and I think with some assistance from John Mance, came down on them and said, no more patching. You got to fix your issue. And they did do the full main. Okay, so they do the full main. And then John Mance was also coordinating with New Jersey American on the paving. So I'm not sure if there was a disconnect, but I still look back at it and go, I don't understand how we ended up with half the road paved. And to Mr. Ryan's point, had there been more coordination from New Jersey American Water, we could have said, hey, hold off until we get some engineering done, and we can take whatever you're going to pay your contractors or work cooperatively to do a full drainage and paving together. Now, in the private world, you can do that coordination easy. In municipal government, working with private contractors, it's not as easy, but it's certainly something that we need to tee up and make sure. And Doug, I know you've been talking to John Mance and to Paul Ferrero about those streets. So Riverwood,
Yeah.
Tuttle, Wildwood,
Right, so.
and Bedminster Terrace.
Just so you know, even the contractors that were on our streets were laughing and saying, why are we doing that?
Well, why were they doing
There's a
just that?
spot- There's a spot in front of Greg's house that says patch, with written patch. They patched it. There's a whole area 4 feet away. That's it's a pothole already. I mean, like.
And and I also would say up by your house, maybe a little to the west, maybe closer by, they went right around a manhole, okay, but then there was essentially, it almost looks like another pothole, but it was on the other half of the road, so they didn't touch it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can go back to New Jersey American Water and point out this deficient job, but it's certainly worth a couple phone calls.
I mean, if you'd like, I can.
Yeah, no, and you are the paving liaison, so Doug, go ahead.
So and Kevin, thank you for coming in, because we always encourage this, right? This one we know about, but there's stuff out there that we don't know about. So we always want folks to come in and let us know where we're not getting it done. I think you'll hear from all of us, including, Colin on the remote screen here. We understand your neighborhood is what it is, and it's unacceptable. You're in the queue is what I would tell you. The final paving job that you would expect to see from the municipality, that was not it. Okay, you are in queue, meaning you're coming up for the overhaul to your neighborhood in the coming year or two, depending on when our professionals tell us we're ready to go. You had I think this is a product of two parallel paths that we're not talking together that perhaps should have been. So point taken on that. But the deterioration of the road and why you're only getting 10 years, 12 years before it's to the point where you're saying this is unacceptable was due to the poor water main. Okay. And you have constant leaks of the water main. Any paving job will tell you the worst thing you can do is introduce water into the base. Once your sub base starts becoming compromised, your paving up top is going to fall right in line and be compromised. So getting the water company to fix the main is the root cause, I think, of a lot of your problems up there. So then you say, okay, wait, water company, put it back to the way you found it. It is unrealistic, in my opinion, to ask a private company to pave something they did not touch. Okay. So I think we may be barking up the wrong tree to say, hey, water company, you did 80%, do the extra 20. They'll come back and say, why should I do the extra 20? I did my repairs. So I get that. Okay. That has to be addressed. And the idea is in the coming year and a half, you will see a overhaul on top of what was just fixed. So the idea of your neighbors is, oh my gosh, is this the town's idea of fixing my paving issue? No, that we haven't had our bite at the apple up there. That was a private water company paving over its repair work. Now, I did walk it. I took 50 pictures. I sat down with John Mans. To me, the neophyte eye to what I'm looking at, I see half the road paved and I see the other half completely alligator cracked. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, shoot, I mean, isn't that the water damage from the broken main that has damaged the rest of the street? Why don't we put together that sort of argument, that theory, and take it back to the water company? Problem that I understand is that it's not only water that's in the ground. There are gas lines in the ground. So,
Gas lines have just gotten there 6 months, within 6 months.
but what that does is it gives the water company the out to say, well, that's not our work. We didn't cause that. Point is, I'm not interested in pointing fingers. I'm interested in getting you a solution and your neighbors a solution, and we certainly understand it. The idea of engineering too, just to also set the record straight, the 100,000 that we talked about at our last meeting was not established for the purpose of engineering your neighborhood. It was a concept that we need to do a better job of getting paving going early in the season. So during budget session, we talked about taking a chunk of money and making it available for next season early, as opposed to us going through our budget session, going through our appropriations and saying, okay, John, you have X dollars to go pave. And he's saying, great, we're in the middle of the paving season. Everybody's spoken for. I can't get somebody out here. So we want him to hit the ground running in late April, May, June, and July. So we get a full season's worth of paving out there. So that's what that was for. Now, it just so happens that in the queue that's ready to come up, we have the Clucas Brook neighborhood and your neighborhood. Those are like the next two items. I've been told by the professionals that your neighborhood requires some engineering. Now, I will tell you that that was told to me before the main issue was really diagnosed. It very well could be that fixing the main addresses that issue, and now it's not so much of an engineering problem because we don't have the constant flow of water that we haven't been seeing visibly. But I think we need to let that play out a little bit. But we are having our engineer look at your streets to make sure that when we actually go there and do it, Kevin, it's not going to be 10 years. 10 years is not sufficient for a mill and pave. You should be getting 15 to 20 out of that.
It's been 15 years and it's been a wreck for over 7 years. So we got about 8 years. And I know Tuttle was dug up within 5 years of that being paved. It was a black and white looking road from almost the first, like one was dark black, one was gray.
Yeah.
But it looked bad from the beginning.
And that's what you have right now. You have a checkerboard up there. I get it. Look, it's bad. Okay. We get it. Okay. We're not saying we're sitting here and saying that's the end of it. You're going to see more activity up there. But the idea is, I think that you're seeing the degradation of your asphalt before its useful life because of the water main was constantly dripping and leaking underneath. So now that's been fixed. The hope is the root cause is addressed. And now give us the opportunity, just if you could, just be patient with us to get back up there. We understand that it needs to be fixed and that it's not right. We get it. I will say that if I might mess up the road, is it Riverwood behind Mr. Brown's house that goes out towards Tuttle? I mean, that had like 2-foot potholes that are no longer. They're paved over. So in that respect, I think it's an improvement. I think visually it's poor, but drivability, I think it's an improvement. Okay.
That's, I mean, what New Jersey American Water's contractors did, that's a patch for a long-term fix. A long-term fix is engineering, it's the drainage.
Right.
I will agree that the constant leaks from the water main itself. I do remember years ago when it was milled and paved. And that did not last long. And probably a large part of it was because the old water main leaked here, there, and there. And so you introduce that water into the sub base, it freezes, expands,
It's over.
blows out the pavement on top.
That's right.
And so hopefully now with the new water main installed, that the next paving cycle is going to last a lot longer.
Yeah.
And also at this point, with the PSC and cheap gas line in, there should be no further invasive work into, well, the line is there. So if they're going to tap in, they can tap into the street. And, one of the things we don't have now is, but I always thought we did have. But I know when we bought our house, we connected from oil to gas because the gas line does run up hillside.
Yeah,
But-
steeplechase.
Yeah, but it didn't, and that's when it was brought in.
Right.
But it was only recently brought into your neighborhood. And No, go-
Just May, and,
just to make sure, Robin, are we picking up Mr. Ryan's comments on
No,
audio?
we're actually not. He needs to come up to the microphone.
just one other thing was, I think we should have foresight, knowing that we've been talking to the water company, I think, Mr. Hickey has been back and forth with them for a long time. We should have been ready. So when the water company was gonna pay, X amount of dollars, we could have said, like you said earlier, no, we're paving that this year. We'll take your X amount of dollars, and then it would have been cheaper, it would have saved the taxpayers. Now we get the patch job, but now we still have to pay 100% of the paving that needs to be done. And, I think we need curbing, I think so. We missed an opportunity to take the water company's money and use it to something we already need, whether the water main was fixed or not. So we missed that opportunity. And it was just coincidental that this gets talked about the night that the water company paved it and no one was happy on my street.
Kevin, I'll say that $100,000 that's in the ordinance, that's been on the books really since we went through budget a few months ago. So that is coincident. But on the coordination, we did ask, and this is something that, Doug, I'm going to ask Doug to follow up with both Paul Ferrero and John Mance, is we did ask for coordination with New Jersey American. We didn't get it.
And just the PS to that, and it doesn't, Kevin, I don't expect you to take this and say, okay, thank you, and be okay with it. But the reality is, on the global picture, from a municipal perspective, the single most expensive thing that we do, the single most important, weight on our budget is paving. And every year during budget session, we talk about what has to get done next, what's up next. Your neighborhood is absolutely in the discussion. But to your point, we look for opportunities to share on paving with counties, with state. So we get shared aid. This year, our big project was Black River Road because we were having shared aid with that to try to keep the costs down. Again, I don't expect that anyone in your neighborhood takes that and says, okay, great. But just understand where we're coming from, that we share your concern. We want to save dollars. We want to make sure that our dollars go as far as they possibly can. In that regard, we're applying for state aid, mutual aid, county aid with respect to both your neighborhood and the Clucas Brook neighborhood. But it's not going to stop us. But to the extent we can get someone else lined up to help pay for it, we're going to do that. And that takes a process. And when we were discussing your neighborhood, what prevented us from putting it up on the ledger, getting it done this year, was the fact that we did not have our arms around the status of the engineering and the drainage issues like you've identified. And all I can tell you is that we're aware of it now. We're working on it, and we will try to get you that resolution as fast as possible.
And I'll just say one more thing. Let's not just get it to satisfactory. It's a really nice neighborhood. And I think we, as a town, should take some pride and make it the best we can, help everyone's property values, and really be proud of what that neighborhood could be. It's a cute little neighborhood. I mean, Wildwood, that little winding road.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that should be a gem for Bedminster, not an eyesore. And thanks everybody for what you did.
Thank you, Kevin, and
Thank you
thank
for
you for not just being a Bedminster resident, but for your day job as well. Thank you for your service. Robin, do we have anyone else?
You do, Mayor. You have a comment. Lefty Grimes. Unmute him now, Mr. Grimes.
Lefty Grimes, we're going to need your full name and address.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me, council?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oh. Hold on. Sorry. My name is Edward Lefty Grimes. I'm with sativacross.org. We're a 501c3 here in New Jersey advocating for disabled rights and for cannabis patients' rights. I want to thank you for having this this hybrid meeting. This is very important that disabled people can take part. People that are homebound, people in wheelchairs can take part. I call a lot of meetings ahead of time for disability access, and they refuse to give it to me now. The problem I have with that is for 14 months, we gave things that disabled people were asking for years, like online school, online work, online church, online council meetings. We've been asking for these things for years, and finally we get them. And for 14 months, the towns gave it to us. And disabled people were able to take part for the first time with all these meetings. And now they're being taken away. And a lot of towns are saying, well, we don't do that anymore. We can't do that anymore. Well, yeah, you can do it. You just refuse not to. You did it for 14 months for healthy people. Now we're asking you to do it for sick and dying people, and they refuse to do it. So I appreciate that you actually are having this meeting, and I hope that you keep doing this meeting online so that sick people can take part. My friend Jeff took part from his deathbed, literally went to these council meetings from his deathbed. And that's something he would not be able to do. Oh, there we are. That's something he would not be able to do today. So I appreciate that. I have a question about the cannabis ordinance. Does the cannabis ordinance affect medical cannabis patients? Does it affect disabled war vets with PTSD using cannabis in your town, or cancer patients? Is it going to affect patients at all, this ordinance?
This is actually not the public hearing on the ordinance. That will be later in the evening. So we are going to reserve your comment for when we actually have the public hearing on that ordinance.
Oh, it's just a question. That was just a question because it's consumption of cannabis of all forms. So if you're taking a pill, like say someone is in the courtroom and they're taking a pill of OxyContin, that's
Mr. Grimes, you will have your opportunity to raise that when we are at the public hearing. That's the opportune time to discuss an ordinance and the merits and the if you don't support the ordinance, that's fine. But this is public comment.
Okay, if it's
So
hurting
when
vets,
we
I have
have
to say
the
something.
public hearing,
Okay,
that's your
fine.
time to raise that issue.
I have to say, so if it hurts vets, I need to say something. That's what I'm saying. So I'm going to keep saying it. So thank you. I'll reserve my comments. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Ray, anyone else?
Checking Mayor. I see no others.
Okay. Let's move on to approval of minutes. We have 2 minutes. We have the June 7th, 2021 Township Committee meeting, and we have the June 7th executive session. Any comments or questions regarding the minutes? If not,
I
maybe,
just noticed, I think, did
You
we
would-
spell Mr. Murillo's first name correctly? Because usually men spell Renee with 1 E. But not all. In the first paragraph, on the-
Renee Murillo.
yes. The first paragraph,
I can look that up.
on the first page, the first
Second line from
paragraph,
the bottom.
the gentleman from Hamilton Farms.
I'll look that up.
Okay, perfect. That's all.
okay, subject to Renee being spelled with the appropriate number of E's. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Permits raffles, we have 3 permits and raffles. First permit, I'm sorry, actually it's a raffle. Off-premise merchandise raffle to benefit Children's Special Hospital Foundation on August 30, 2021 from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 811 Rattlesnake Bridge Road, Bedminster. Second is an on-premise merchandise raffle to benefit the Freedom House on July 20, 2021 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 811 Rattlesnake Bridge Road, Bedminster. And the third is an off-premise merchandise raffle to benefit the Friends of the Jacobus Vanderveer House on July 10 2021 at 2:15 PM at the Jacobus Vanderveer House, 3055 River Road, Bedminster. Any questions or comments regarding those raffles?
Nope.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair. We will start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Historic preservation was canceled. No quorum, so we'll pick that up this month or next meeting. Just want to touch on DPW. We've got a couple things going on there. Take the insular and discrete and move to the more general. There's a issue on Robertson Road, replacing of a no parking sign. Unfortunately, it's right in the sight line of the speed thing we just put in. So we're looking to reposition that so that everybody can see all the signs that are on that road. So we'll continue to work with the residents over there. And then since last meeting, I attended a county presentation out on Burnt Mills Road. The county was resurfacing Burnt Mills using an entity known as Asphalt Paving Systems that has a state contract, which is big because there's no public bidding associated with it. And essentially what they wanted to do, they invited Mayor Monk from Bridgewater and us to come check it out. And it's a slurry pavement product. And they were actually doing the laying of the product out, and they wanted to show us what it involved. Very impressive. They essentially started right at Country Club Road, going west on Burnt Mills, and they actually they have it set up that a tandem truck backs up into the device loaded with the aggregate that they hand sift at an offsite location. They're using Raritan Valley Community College to store the material. Gets loaded into the truck. On the side of the truck, they've got a tube of effluent. They've got a tube of water. They back it in, and then the machine just pulls all three ingredients, mixes it up, lays it down, and then they come through in the back with almost like a squeegee as they move down the street. And it's just the pace of walking. We were walking along as this truck was moving along, laying down this concrete product, and quiet, relatively speaking, no milling. And it goes right on. It's dry within 45 minutes. It will give you 6 to 8 years of life on the product. So I asked them, where have you been using this product? Where can we take a look at it to see how it's out in the field? Lamington Road 206 from Lamington to Chester, I'm told has that now for about 5 years. So as you do that run, take a look at it. I would do it every day. It's like you do it every day. It's pretty good. I mean, that stretch of run has no, foreseeable or noticeable issues that I can think of. Now Burnt Mills actually has it down, albeit, maybe a week or two old. But the other section to check out is on Allen Road. As you proceed out of the hills, you cross over street. I'm forgetting the name of the main street right there, but then we'll take you Allen Road out to Martinsville. It kind of turns around and you would go down to Martinsville Road there. I'm sorry.
Somerville Road? Somerville Road.
You go over Somerville Road and you stay on Allen Road. That stretch has this product down from the county. I reached out for Matt Loper at the county. He's sort of the czar of the slurry product. And I asked him, how long you've been using it? Do you like it? The county loves it. They've only been using it for a couple of years, admittedly. But they said that, the reason, quite frankly, why they're doing it is that it's a cost-effective way of maintaining the roads. So just to give you an idea, back of the napkin calculations, it's about $12 a yard to do a full mill and pave. This slurry product is $3 a yard. So you could do 4 of these applications before you're at the same amount of money for a single mill and pave. We know that through John and his recent, reports on some of our paving, the aggregate and then the material you're actually getting from the quarry these days, it's got a lot of recycled product in it. So it's not as strong as historically has been in the 70s and 80s. So you're not really getting your 25 years anyway. You're getting 12 to 18 at best years out of it. I asked the county, again, where are the cost savings that you see here? And the response is more on a larger scale. It's over a 20-year rollout because they're doing a ton of roads, and they're maintaining them more frequently than perhaps we're doing them. But even with a consistent maintenance for all of the roads, they think they're saving, half their costs over 20 years, 25 years. So they're very pleased with it. The gentleman Wally is the foreman for Asphalt Paving Solutions. He said he would walk the streets. He said it's not for every street. There's some streets that perhaps could take it. But if the base is really messed up, it likely would not, qualify. So we've got to just be, if we're interested in at least doing a trial and error to see what this is, what it's all about and if it's going to work for us, we've got to have them come out and walk the street to see if it's a street that's eligible. What else can I tell you?
Oh,
about it?
well, here, so right now, it's actually being applied on Lamington.
Okay, are they doing Lamington
So,
as
so
well?
their Lamington was closed, I think it was Thursday night. No, it was it Thursday or Wednesday night?
It was Thursday night.
It was Thursday. It was Thursday night. So they closed Lamington. I was coming home from work. I noticed they were closing up. And then the next day was open. And I drove it Friday. And they did a couple miles worth.
Oh, yeah.
So they, in one night, they went from Lamington all the way down, excuse me, from 206 all the way down. And, turned around, got on the side, they did the southbound, they did the southern side of Lamington. So the, I guess that's the
West to east.
West to east.
west to east. Thank you. Right. So they did the eastbound side. And I believe it might even be tonight. Chief, do you know, are they doing the other side of Lamington tonight? Chief is, he might be muted.
He's muted.
So anyway, it's, if it's not tonight, it's sometime over this week that they're going to finish the application
There he is.
on, there he is.
Chief.
So Chief, are they putting that slurry down on the other half of Lamington tonight?
They're scheduled to, but we claim to find that anytime there's a threat of rain, they cannot proceed with the work for that evening. So, at this point, obviously it hasn't stormed, but they tend to cancel that project. But yes, they should either tonight, tomorrow, or Wednesday, finish the westbound side of Lamington Road.
So, I'm thinking about when Lamington was paved. It was only, I don't know, 6-7 years ago that it was paved. So it's, to me, it almost sounds as if the county is being, treating this as prophylactic to maintain the quality of what they just put down. And so to me, it is interesting. And you had said that that they've applied it on 206 heading up to Chester. We all drive that road every day. It seems fine.
Right.
Seems
so,
good.
So that's, you hit the nail on the head, Mayor. It's a maintenance product. It's not a structural product. But if used every 5-6 years as a maintenance product, you're going to stretch out the life of that structured road for a long time, which raised the question of, well, shoot, is this a capital expense? And I did pose that to the county. They confirmed that yes, for budgetary purposes, it does meet the requirements for capital. So it can go into the capital budget as opposed to having to be outside the capital budget, which is important. So, and again, it's a state contract. Essentially what the process would be is they would come in, they would clean the roads off. They would do a crack seal application on any cracks that were there. If there's an area of the stretch of road the way you're looking to do that needed to be cut out and redone and prepared for this, they would do that too. But they did say not all roads would qualify, obviously. I think it would be something that we should be looking, this is something we should be looking into to see A, what roads qualify, and B, what sort of program, if we put them on, what kind of cost savings would we affect?
Right. And you spoke to both Matt at the Matt Loper, who's the head of engineering for the county, and also with Paul to see what Paul's opinions were.
Got Paul, right? We reached out to Paul too. He had a great objection, out of the gates. It's the same concerns. You got to make sure that your base is good, that you're applying it to a street that's capable of accepting the pavement, or the slurry rather. But the other thing about it is that they do this stuff in residential neighborhoods. Folks, come out with their morning coffee and jump in their car and say, "Oh my gosh, when did my road get paved?" Because you're not hearing it come through. It's relatively quiet and it's quick. So it's just like a car moving by at the pace that you would walk by someone's house, and they're in and they're out. I mean, I guess they would be going both ways to do both sides of the street, but the way that's set up, at least it was on Burnt Mills, when the main tandem truck ran out of aggregate, it just pulled away. It continued to take what, you know, the product that it already had in the hopper, and then they backed in another one. So it was seamless, and they do miles and miles and miles a night. So it's quick, it's good, it's actually pavement. So it will take your brine, it will take all of the things that you're used to seeing on a pavement application. There's no definitive lip that you have to worry about with this, with the plows coming through and wrecking it up. So, you know, I think we would be, you know, wise to try to dip our foot in the pond and see, you know, put it out on a temporary basis somewhere where we think we could, you know, realize the benefits and see what we get.
Can I get the information for them? Because that sounds like something that would be good in the hills.
Absolutely.
Because we have to redo our streets often, but they're not always bad, like you said, where you have to dig up the whole thing, but they do get cracked. So that might be a really good answer for what we have going on over there.
Good idea. Absolutely. And, you know, look, I mean, part of this was a sales call. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, but
That's fine.
but he was also saying that there's alternatives. I mean, if you've got a road that really does need a mill and pave, they have different products. And I'd be lying to you if I told you I remembered them all, but something was a mill and chip or something like that, where it's going to finish a little rougher than you'd normally see. But if you do the mill and chip plus the overlay, it's going to be like a brand new mill and pave at a fraction of the
Well,
cost.
so think about this. So think about the traffic that 206 gets. Right? Trucks, big trucks. We all know it gets trucks because we all live within a few yards of 206. So we know the trucks that traverse the road, and the fact that it's holding up there, you know, you bring it into our residential streets, the streets that we are responsible for, like Bedminster Village, Riverwood, Tuttle, Wildwood, Hillside, Ski Hill, Old Dutch, right? We're not getting a lot of truck traffic on those streets. So the survivability of this, to me, it's intriguing and certainly worth, for $3 a yard, it's worth trying in the right place.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Mayor.
So if it can be, you know, certainly I'm all in favor of you meeting with Wally, maybe with Paul or John, and picking out a couple neighborhoods, maybe even, you know, Riverwood. That's not necessarily going to follow with the curbing and the other improvements, but, you know, see what it works on, or see what those guys think, and also, you know, then
My sense of it is that
figure out what
Ryan's
sort of
neighborhood
guarantees that
is
it
not going
comes
to be
with.
conducive for that, because I do think that the base is sufficiently shot over there that it would probably not be a candidate. But the other thing that with Wally from Asphalt Paving Systems indicated he'd be more than happy to come in and do a presentation if we'd like it. If we'd like, it's up to you guys. So he threw that out there. But I'll definitely follow up with John.
Yeah,
and I'll
and
see if we can do something.
You know, I don't know that we need the presentation here, but certainly you and whoever else is the liaison for DPW could do that, or everyone can go out, drive Burnt Mills and go drive down Lamington, because that stuff is being applied as we speak.
And
in
over
real
on
time.
Allen, and over on Allen Road as well.
Yeah.
Just
So
two other
we
real
get to
quick
see-
things.
Oh, go ahead.
Get in and out on DPW. Just we had some interviews this past week for the foreman position. We haven't closed it out yet, so that's still ongoing. And then I just wanted to also report that I sent out a trial balloon over social media about the running of the gas lines up 206 to the Ski Hill, Berkshire, Deer Haven neighborhoods. And I'm aware of the sheet that PSE&G placed on our website. I will tell you, having sort of been in the know and understand what it's all about, it was unclear to me what we were supposed to do with that sheet. So I'd like to reach out to PSE&G to see if they could have a little bit more.
Okay, I'll give you the
explanation.
contact for PSE&G. And, you know, this is an example. So just as Kevin was describing, his neighborhood didn't have gas service until recently. My neighborhood certainly didn't have it before Steeplechase was installed or was constructed. And then they brought the line up. They will bring it. PSE&G will extend gas service, but they need to know the BTUs so they can assess whether or not they're going to charge right? Because if you're bringing a gas line in, 600 yards for one house and that house doesn't use a whole lot of gas. They're going to
Completely understand. I get that.
So
and it
they
makes-
have to essentially amortize the revenue over a 10-year period. And if there's enough usage and then
It's
they'll
a
do
bit of
it. So and Robin and I had those initial meetings with PSE&G. And we said, well, can we do it by houses? We're like, well, it's houses are nice, but we really need to know the usage, right?
Right. It's a little bit of a chicken and the egg going on because the residents are likely going to say, well, I'll agree to convert if I know that it's not going to cost me that much.
Yeah,
or anything.
exactly.
PSEG can't tell you what it's going to cost you until they know who wants to convert. So somebody's got to give. And that's what I'm just trying to break that log jam. Maybe they can give me a little bit more information about it.
And it could be on, what do people want to switch, right? So do they want to switch their heaters? That's good. That's better than your stove. Your stove is good, but it's not going to be as good as your heat.
Right.
So that's one of the things that PSEG wants to know. So that's why they're looking at the BTU consumption and the elements that the residents want to switch over to. So and trust me, this was a series of meetings that I've been having with PSE&G, and this really goes back to, I think, pre-COVID with Judy and I. So we've been trying to push them further because there are those neighborhoods, just like in Bedminster Village, where finally is out there, and we hear from the real estate brokers that having gas is going to increase value of home, right? Whether it does or not, I don't know. But certainly that's the conventional wisdom out there. So if we can help people do that, get rid of their oil tanks, convert to gas.
One of the
It makes
neighbors,
sense.
one of the neighbors in the area from Berkshire responded and said that the line's already in. Then people have already opted in and opted out. So that was news. So it's just, I just want to, if you could give me the
Well,
contact information.
it's similar. Like we didn't know that there's a stub of a line that comes into Ski Hill.
Right.
Now, Ski Hill is a big old circle.
Right.
So you've got maybe 28 houses that might take advantage of it if it was brought further down or completed the whole road.
Yeah. And I could see, look, one of the first questions the resident's going to have is what does it cost to tap in? I don't have that information. So I want to be able to have that kind of information. And I'm not looking to lock anybody in, but people need to know an estimate. It's going to be 10 grand, 2 grand, 20 grand.
I'm going to give you the contact information from Mark Pintaro over at PSE&G, and the direct connect from the house is something that the contractors do. So that's something that
It's on the resident.
the resident has to coordinate. PSE&G will bring it up to the line, will bring the line up to the property, but still that actual connection goes back to the contractor.
That's right.
So
That's what I've got.
they may know about, or maybe you can ask Gina, she might be able to tell you.
They bring it right to the house.
Did they bring it to that, not just to the property line?
Right to the-
Okay.
Right to the foundation, and you have to, before they put it.
Did you convert?
I haven't connected yet, but we're in the process. But several houses have, and literally to get to the house, cost us nothing. As long as we promised to put in a certain amount of BTU.
Yeah, that's right.
But, and it's kind of funny because I think there was a grant that as long as you were reached a certain number, it was free. If you were slightly over, slightly under, it wasn't quite clear. But some people, well, now it's gonna cost you a couple thousand. I'm like, what? But I think they worked with the town, and they got, everyone I know of got it to their house for free.
Good.
That's great. Thank you, Kevin.
All right.
Perfect. That's all good.
Okay. Gina?
Mayor. I just have just 2 quick updates. I just wanted to let everybody know that Camp Bedminster begins week from today, and training is set up for staff Friday. And also, through Somerset County, there's still funds available for the emergency rental relief program. And if anyone has COVID-related arrears or needs mental assistance, there's almost a little less than $16,000 allotted for Bedminster residents. So it'd be great if anybody needed the help, that they took advantage of it. And I just have an update for old business, but I'll talk about that later.
Okay. Renee?
Thank you, Mayor. A real quick thank you to the Environmental Commission for presenting Bat Night last Friday night. Ethan Gilardi from the Conserve Wildlife Foundation of New Jersey presented a slideshow of how bats live, how they're designed, and more importantly, how important they are to our agriculture. At the end of the presentation, he demonstrated to us the use of the acoustic detector that makes the normally inaudible bat echolocation sound waves audible. It was a full house, including the mayor, of both children and adults, and it seems to be a perennial hit.
Was that the most folks you've ever had at Bat
That
Night?
is.
That was great. You had a great attendance, and Ethan Gilardi was a really good presenter, very
I
dynamic.
think he's fun, yeah.
Kids
He's a young guy.
really seem to be into it.
Yep.
And some of the, folks who weren't kids. Nice turnout and,
We had
and
all ages, shapes, and sizes,
congrats to you and to Dawn for putting that together.
and to Whit Parker.
And wait, right.
Let's see, real quick, I attended on June 10th, a meeting of the Communities in Crisis for a conversation with other Somerset Hills leaders regarding the mental health of our community, as well as attitudes and behaviors towards substance use in light of the legalization of marijuana. CIC is an organization whose goal is to lead and unite communities to reduce the incidence and consequences of misuse of substances through education, prevention, and holistic support in an environment free of stigma. So we split up into group discussions and talked about what kind of programs each of us at the table thought would be important to have. And we had all sorts of teachers, parents at the program. So they came up with some ideas about educational programs for teachers and coaches, which I thought was interesting, support programs to connect parents, and police outreach, just a couple of the ideas. In another month or two, they'll have another roundtable discussion, and I'll bring back whatever information we get from that one. Additionally, the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute is having a wellness campaign town hall meeting. And I'll be going to that June 22nd. And the same kind of thing, talking about the importance of health and welfare in our community, particularly in light of the pandemic, as well as with the legalization of marijuana. So I'll attend that and bring back some information that I get from that. And finally, on the rest of the marijuana information, Colin and I attended a special meeting that HVMA held for us. So we got to talk to them, let them know what we were thinking here at Township. And they had similar questions that the other masters had. We did get a couple questions on the licenses being good sources of revenue, but we suggested them coming to our meeting in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whenever our next meeting is, and let them bring that up, because that's not something that the Masters Association are gonna be worrying about. And real quick for JVH, we passed the raffle. So they're raffling off the gift card. I think I mentioned this before, to Natarar, worth about $1,400. They're going to limit the tickets to 100 tickets printed, and each ticket will be $20. So it's a nice little fundraiser for JVH, and it's a good chance somebody's going to get that prize. Let's see. So the upcoming programs for JVH will be Weekend Journey. That's October 9th and 10th. The Cantonment Model Opening Night will be on Veterans Day, November 11th. And we're looking forward to the Colonial Christmas this year on December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Colin?
Mayor, thank you. I covered the bulk of what Board of Health reviewed last Thursday, but I did want to give a shout out and recognition to Diane Gibson, our retiring board secretary. It was her last meeting, and we wish her well in retirement. And Janine DeLeon, who is currently the land use board secretary, will be filling some big shoes for Diane, but she's very capable, as we all know. So we welcome her to the board, and just want to give Diane special recognition for her contributions these past many years. And that's all I have on Board of Health, Mayor.
Hey, thank you. So I'm just quickly just going to cover land use board. At the last land use board meeting, there was a presentation from the county planning team that goes back to Steve and I, coordinating with them and AT&T and MetLife it feels like, and it has been years. But this study is now really, it's sort of in the last throes of being prepared in its draft form, and there'll be some public presentations on the zoning for AT&T in the next few months. My recommendation is that we'll probably end up doing a joint Township Committee Land Use Board meeting for when this is ready to be presented in a final public hearing format. And that should probably be later this summer. And just going to end it there and make a quick reference to farmers market. That's it. Okay, so before we get to administrators report, we're going to move something that we have towards the end of the meeting. We're going to bring it up now, which is the Pony Farm improvements. So everyone remembers, Maria, if you can come up. So we have a guest from New Jersey Conservation Foundation, Beth Davison, who's our contact there, is on vacation this week, but Marie Newell from NJCF is here to talk about some ideas, and they're not even ideas at this point. It's the plans to move forward with the memorial plaque at the property and to change the look of the well that is really the only remaining improvement at the property. If anyone's hasn't driven by, go up there. The Pony Farm is a beautiful meadow field at this point, and we'll start seeing those warm weather grasses coming in, I'm going to imagine, in a few weeks, right?
Actually, some of them came in immediately. They planted some of them in December, right when the building had been knocked down and resurfaced. They said it was perfect timing because it was cold crop to plant them. So you will see that. And the other thing I'm going to mention tonight is the parking.
Right.
So I'm Marie Newell. I actually just moved to Bedminster Township.
Oh, great.
Don't live on
Welcome.
house yet,
Mhm.
but I'm at 2005 Black River Road.
Oh,
In Pottersville.
so then you're right near you're right near the Pony Farm, not too far away.
So yeah, so I'm renting in Glen Gardner, New Jersey, and so we can, move in.
Well, welcome to Bedminster.
Thank you. I'm excited, and it's been already eye-opening to listening to all the topics.
And by the way, your road is getting paved this year.
I don't know the order you have on the agenda for these three items, but I'm going to start with parking. I sent in a draft that was done by Wayne Lisa, who owns a Mason, stone company and does work. It's pretty rough. Basically, they want to use the existing driveway that's already there because it already has the stone foundation. They put out red flags to mark out where the parking area is going to be. It's going to be for 3 cars, and it's big enough just for the cars to pull in, turn around, and pull back out. They want to mark off that parking area by just keeping it natural looking, low maintenance, but nice big boulders so that it shows this is the, kind of area of the parking area. And then just have native grasses around it. The donor had kind of wanted picket fencing and had a lot of different ideas, but one, we've had to come to the town, and we've also maintenance issues because we want to keep it simple. We don't want to create more work for the town, but also for the Brady's, and they were, definitely simple, native, natural, nothing ostentatious. So that's where, the donors, landscape architect, and the stone Wayne Lisa came up with the idea of the boulders. So that's the first piece tonight that I wanted to, use the existing parking area where it's flagged and, keep it just very simple.
Yeah, I saw the flags up. I went up there this weekend, saw the flags were in place. It looks like just as it was laid down on the plans. So it looks
I
good.
drove up a couple months ago and there's plenty of room to pull in and then make a U-turn and come out without taking over half the yard.
The original plans that were done, and I just want to make this clear, that were submitted were done by Gladstone Design. And they were not exactly on the existing driveway. And we didn't really realize that, they weren't surveyed in. So that's where we were like, you know what, we need to make sure that, we're using the existing driveway and we're not trying to pinch stairs into, what's there. So that's a clarification tonight on that. Is there any questions remotely or here about the driveway?
Now that driveway does, you pull in, it's kind of a big square, but there is like an offshoot to the left.
Yeah.
Is,
We're not going into that area. We want to keep it small from conversations we've had with, you know, the roads department and just simple. So it's square, just like that. What you pull in, it's a square. You pull in, you pull out.
okay.
The one thing I'm gonna ask that wasn't clear to me, or Beth, and that was that John had talked about putting gravel in there. And I don't know if that, where that stands. Is anyone here now?
No, I thought the additional gravel would come through the donor.
I'm gonna note that.
Because I believe the current, you know, having gone there this weekend, essentially you're just getting weeds coming. Actually, the weeds right now are taller than the red flags that are up there.
Yeah.
So you have to look for the red flags between the weeds.
Yeah, and some of those are the native grasses that he, you know, because he basically spread them through the whole construction site over the parking lot. Okay, so I will look into the gravel, make sure that the donor covers that, you know, okay. The second thing I was gonna talk about was just the well. Thank you, Robin, for putting up a picture because it's worth 1,000 words. So this is the existing well that you see. The thing that you don't notice when you're driving by at 35 miles an hour is it has an octagonal roof. So when Jimmy Brady was out there with Beth and I think the mayor and maybe John, they wanted to just simplify it. One, it'll be more inexpensive to fix, and they want to do cedar shakes, which are expensive on top. And they said the term that I was given was wonky. So I did take these pictures just so that you could see, and I think there's another picture that shows the roof part that shows the interior. So it's just the design that was submitted shows basically a, you know, a V, I don't know the architectural term, but just a V shape down. So it'll just be two sides. So that is going to be one change. The rest of it, though, the white pilings or their columns are going to look similar. They're going to take the whole top off. They're going to put the columns back up. They're going to put that V-shaped roof on. It'll be cedar shingles on top. It'll be white painted. You know, the columns will be white, and then they're going to put a plaque with a bluestone that's going to go on the edge. So if you go, yeah. So there's 4 of those around. And the 3 of them are the same height, but the one closest to the road, which is on the right side of the picture, that's a little lower, and that's where the plaque will go to recognize this donation was made in memory of, you know, Jim Brady. And so the plaque, which I'll talk about in 2 seconds, is going to go there. But there'll be a basically this you know, bluestone put down first, and then this plaque will go onto the bluestone. So they're going to clean off the stones. I mean, I kind of like the orange, you know, lichen, but they're going to power hose them off, and they're going to repoint anywhere that it needs repointing, and then you're going to have a plaque. So that's basically the changes, you know, for the well house. Are there any questions?
I have one, and just from a safety perspective, has this well been properly decommissioned, and is it capped in some way?
Now, that was a question that was brought up because we did close the well, the existing well on the house, and we were told, and I can't tell you tonight because I'm not exactly my project, I don't know. But I thought everyone was happy that how it was, the existing, how it is, that's all I remember.
Isn't that looking down into the well?
That is looking down into it.
Oh, so it's
So I
not
think
gonna go
it's
down like
Oh, no,
70
no.
feet? and
No,
somebody's gonna
new,
jump in there
new.
and
No,
everything?
that's already, so that stone plate is 3 feet,
Perfect,
3 feet down.
perfect. Okay, that was my question.
And I do believe, and I believe that either that John may have tried to pull it up or stick something down that hole, and there's nothing down there.
Beautiful.
So no one should be falling down that well. If you do, you're just going to step out.
Okay, good.
Are there any remote questions, you know, remotely?
Oh, good from this side. Thank you.
All right, Marie, sounds like from our side, it's full steam ahead.
Oh, wait, the plaque?
That was also, submitted to you, and it basically is gonna say in loving memory of James C. Brady. And then it has 1936 to 2020 for his loving stewardship of our countryside.
Is the material like all
It's a bronze
perfect?
material.
Perfect. No, I was just looking over here. It's all metal or good.
And this is all just everything we discussed has already been discussed with the Brady family, the donor, obviously, and JCF. So this already comes with all their blessings and approvals. And since this is on township property, just wanted, even though officially we already said, go ahead. We did that a couple, but I certainly do appreciate and JCF coming back to us with these details. So please proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Ms. Ray. And welcome to Bedminster. Ms. Ray, administrative
Oh, I'm
report.
just very quick. So it feels like all we've been doing lately is interviewing. So that's really what I wanted just to share, that last week we conducted interviews for our DPW general foreman. We've decided to move forward with second interviews this week. So we'll have some dates
Great.
for you towards the end of the week. We also plan on having interviews at the end of this week as well for a full-time administrative assistant to replace Sarah Hausman, who's moving over to finance clerk to replace Diane Gibson and replace me as deputy clerk. So we have a lot of changes happening the first week in July. Also, we have received one more part-time sewer operator application. We kind of extended it to see where we're at. We now, I believe, have 6.
That's great.
So we are going ahead to schedule all of those interviews as well this week. So that's what we're doing. And I also wanted to just, Diane Gibson is actually retiring next Wednesday. Is her last day here at Bedminster Township. I think she's close to 25 years here at Bedminster. So definitely going to be a huge loss for us. She's an amazing person and an amazing coworker, and we're going to miss her tremendously. So that's my brief report.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, introduction of ordinances. We have no ordinances to introduce, but we do have 3. This number right there, 3 ordinances for public hearing tonight. The first ordinance on is an ordinance appropriating $100,000 for the Capital Road Management Plan. That's ordinance number 2021-009. This ordinance appropriates $100,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund to the township's road management plan, including but not limited to the reconstruction, repair, and mitigation of roads, draining and stormwater systems on various Bedminster Township roads. May we have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2021-009?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Robin.
Okay, so we actually went over this, reviewed this last week, and Doug actually brought to light earlier today that the intention of this is to keep John moving forward with the pavement management plan so that he's ready, willing, and able to pull the trigger on projects as they come up earlier in the season during paving season.
Okay, any questions from the Township Committee regarding the ordinance that we haven't otherwise already covered? Okay, let's open, do we need a motion to open up for public comment?
So moved.
We don't, for public comment?
Uh,
For the ordinance? Yeah, well, anyway, okay, so we have,
You did when you opened it.
all right, all in favor of opening it for public comment? There you go. Any members of the public have any questions, comments regarding ordinance number 2021-009? That's $100,000 being appropriated to the Capital Road Management Plan. Mr. Ryan, if you have a comment, come on up. Name and address again.
Sure. I just want to know, have this like in advance, like?
We do.
We don't know like next year what roads they're gonna be, so they're.
We have a pavement management plan that we didn't have, and actually, so all credit to Committeeman Stevenson for working that up, and actually, it's even on our website. So that there is, I'm not sure where it is. I did find it.
It's on the websites, but no.
It's on the
You
website.
Navigate to DPW, it's right, it should be there.
Yeah, so on DPW, we actually, it's always subject to change. If we find out that we can get a grant, we may move roads around. But it's something that we hadn't had in the past. But it is now, is full transparency. Here are the roads we have in Bedminster, not counting the roads that are managed by the county and
state.
And here's how they're being prioritized for repaving, and that is based on John Mance. So doesn't necessarily involve us manipulating which roads are going to be done. It's really with John and Paul Ferrero, and that's all listed on the DPW site, DPW part of the website.
And this plan was created prior to the pandemic, which
Right.
kind of delayed everything. So
Right.
it's not, it was created right prior to the pandemic,
Yeah.
so everything is a little delayed.
What can I ask today, what roads are actually being paved next spring? So when it's not already, or are they?
There's a queue.
So the answer to your question is no. I can't tell you today what's going to be done, with certainty next year. What I can tell you is the areas that we're focusing on. So for instance, the next two streets that are really in the queue here is your neighborhood and Clucasbrook. Okay, those are the two neighborhoods. Applications are going in with the state to see whether the state will kick in money to help fund those. Brutal honesty, if the state says yes to one, no to the other, that first one where the state's kicking in money, that's going to get done first. But it doesn't mean that the one that doesn't get done gets kicked to the end of the line. Now they're next in the queue. So look, we did Okura this year, we did Revere, we did Sergeant Stoddard, we got Black River Road. Oh, there it
And
is.
Kevin, if you look over there on the screen, Robin pulled it up and found it on the website.
Successful from the DPW homepage.
I'm just wondering, we're paving something next March, those bids aren't done, and I know we're saying.
We got it's co-op, Kevin. So it's not everything goes out to bid. So we're a member of the Morris County Co-op, and I can't sit here and preach chapter and verse what it involves, but it avoids us having to go to bid, right? So to your point though, yes, we have to line up contractors, because if I picked up the phone now and said, hey, John, we have the green light, we want to go do Kevin Street. He calls a contractor, they're going to say, yeah, that's funny. I'm busy from now until the end of the paving season. So that's what we're trying to do, is free up money so that off season, we're ready to go on opening day, so to speak, April, whatever, from rain, we're paving. So
The way the budget process works is we don't officially adopt the budget until March or sometimes April. So that means when we then allocate money for that year's paving, we're already, a month into the paving season and contractors are getting booked. So that's why a lot of the paving that you often see gets pushed to either the end of the year or is carried over from ordinance that were authorized in the prior year.
So this is really to start next
Yeah,
year.
this is essentially seed money to have paving ready to go March, April, without having to wait on the 2022 budget being approved.
And just a PS, and the reason why I say I can't tell you now what's going to happen then is because we don't hear from the state as to what they're willing to kick in for until later. The best we can tell you is that we are completely aware of your neighborhood and it is in the queue, ready to go.
And when-
this year, next year.
When would we find out, like, when, okay, this is getting done? The week before or?
No.
No.
You'll know in advance.
Way prior to that, like I would say during the budget session, we would be committed, knowing what we're doing that spring. So months before, but to the extent we get a positive feedback from the county or the state saying, yes, we'll contribute on a mutual aid, it could be several months before. Okay, great. We know, we knew we were doing Black River for a period of time because we had gotten the approval. But But again, I mean, there's also, we have our own staff. We try, to do very insular and discrete roads that we can one off and just do on our own. The other ones, we're bringing in folks from the co-op. So we want to try to lock them up as early as possible. So there's a lead time involved, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
And if you want to look at a road that was just recently done, Okura. So that little cul-de-sac, which
ice
was
skating rink.
literally, it was literally falling apart. And, I know your street, it's 50 yards from my house. Okura was worse.
50 yards from my house.
Yeah, and that's 50 yards from you, right, and Okura was a disaster.
How long would we be willing to wait from the state before we put this on the agenda to get that it's gonna get done? Are we waiting? I've dealt with the state for my employment. That could take a long time. And you guys are professionals at this, but are we gonna wait for the state final answer, or are we just?
No, my understanding of it, Kevin, is that the state takes, the application and you have to show why that particular stretch of roadway is conducive and why they should want to put money into it. Are you, bridging one major thoroughway to the other, and then that's going to help you get funding. But my understanding is that we're going to know between now and the next paving season whether it's a yes or a no. And even if it's a no, that's just for us then to say, okay, we know we got a budget for that. So it's really just for us to know how much.
Yeah, we're getting
Right, how much you
contribution,
move
we're
around
getting
with.
contribution from the state. So Black River, because Black River, Doug talked about some of the priorities that the state looks at. Black River connects Bedminster to Tewksbury and to Washington Township in Morris County, Tewksbury in Hunterdon. So you've got a road that connects municipalities. That gets priority. So when you get to residential properties, it may not get. So one of the things that we're looking to do is there anything that we can do in that application to boost getting funding from the state for your neighborhood or for the Clucas Brook neighborhood? And by the way, Clucas Brook, because it is curbed, that might be something that might be amenable to the slurry.
I actually raised that exact issue and was told it wouldn't be because the condition of the road was so poor. I don't know whether that's.
So without
right.
giving names,
right.
we know the source of that.
Right.
That's why I think we need to.
Wally
vet
needs to
that.
go out, walk that.
Yeah, we
walk
need
the
to
street.
vet that in a different way because what we're talking about for the grants is just whether or not we get state contribution. That doesn't change the fact that we still have to pave your neighborhood. And it just means that if we're going to pave your neighborhood, that may be our paving project for that year is Riverwood, Wildwood, Tuttle, Bedminster Terrace.
Right. And we could do both if we got funding for one.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're just trying to get all of our ducks in a row so that we can come and bang stuff out. But the idea again is.
I know this is not really budget, but is curbing a thought in our neighborhood?
Yes.
3 different times.
Right, and curbing was, Hillside did come in with grant money because it connects to 202, I'm sorry, 206, actually connects to 206 and 202. And because it has that connection, it did qualify for state. And one of the state requirements is if you're coming in, that they essentially redo and look at the curbing. I didn't even know I was getting curbing. And then one day I found, I came out and like, there's curbing there. Huh, did we after that?
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions regarding ordinance 2021-009?
Not seen any other,
If
Mayor.
not, may we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
May we have a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-009?
So moved.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Hi.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez, and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, ordinance number 2021-010, an ordinance appropriating $25,000 for street lighting upgrades. Ms. Ray?
Sure. So we discussed this at the last meeting as well. There are streetlights in the hills that we are, that need to be replaced. Currently, we have about 5 or 6 of them at the tune of approximately $4,000 a piece.
Okay. Motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any questions or comments from the Township Committee regarding the ordinance?
No, again,
Okay.
just say for the folks who are tuned in or attending for the first time, that the intent here is to ultimately get all of the new fixtures, uniform, but we recognize that, with the turnover, you're doing them a little bit at a time. There may be a period of time where we're going to have different types, but the idea is to ultimately move over to LED.
Correct. Okay, motion to open up for public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members of the public have questions or comments regarding ordinance number 2021-010?
I am not seeing any comments, Mayor.
All right, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevens.
Wait, no, we need a motion
One
to
more.
approve.
I'm moving along.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance number 2021-012, an ordinance amending section 3-6.3 entitled Park and Recreation Area Rules and creating section 3-20 entitled Prohibition on the Public Consumption of Cannabis of Chapter 3 entitled Police Regulations of the Revised General Ordinance of the Township of Bedminster. May we have a motion to open the public hearing for this ordinance?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's turn to John Bellardo. John,
Mayor and Township Committee, how are you this evening?
Hello,
Good.
Mr.
How are you,
Bellardo.
John?
Fine.
all right, John, why don't you walk us, well, I guess maybe you and the chief walk us through this ordinance?
First of all, I've obviously been here all night remotely, and I did hear various comments from members of the public inquiring as to whether this ordinance would impact the use of medical marijuana. And I can affirmatively say that it does not in any way regulate medical marijuana. Cannabis, as defined in this ordinance, has the same definition that was enacted earlier this year by the legislature and Governor Murphy in Public Law 2021, Chapter 16. And if you look at the text of the definition of cannabis there, it is very explicit in indicating that it does not include medical cannabis dispensed to registered qualifying patients pursuant to the Jake Honig Compassionate Use Medical Act, and then it indicates what that act is by public law and statute number. So again, this ordinance that prohibits cannabis and marijuana use applies to cannabis as that was defined in the newly enacted ordinances for purposes of zoning. And of course, as Chief Rock will also affirm, it reemphasizes that the use of illegal marijuana, not, for example, cannabis that has been delivered to you legally or that you have had possession of pursuant to legal means, such as delivery to your house or purchasing at a cannabis dispensary, is also prohibited. So again, medical marijuana is not prohibited. It's not impacted by this ordinance. This ordinance does indicate that no person shall engage in the smoking, vaping, aerosolizing, or consumption of cannabis and marijuana by any other means in any park or recreation area in the township. So those will be prohibited. It also further indicates at a new section 3-20 that no person shall engage in the smoking, vaping, aerosolizing, or consumption of cannabis and marijuana by any other means in a public place. Public place is defined as any place to which the public has access that is not privately owned, or any place to which the public has access, including, but not limited to, a public street, roadway, thoroughfare, sidewalk, bridge, alley, plaza, park, playground, swimming pool, shopping area, public transportation facility, vehicle used for public transportation, parking lot, public library, or any other public building, structure, or area. It does not regulate the use of cannabis, legal cannabis, in private areas. So, for example, we've had questions that have come up as to whether this ordinance would impact cannabis in our planned unit developments, such as the Hills or any other developments that are private places, private parking lots, private common space. It does not. It is up to those particular entities, whether it be the master or village associations, to regulate cannabis. And lastly, in keeping in the spirit of decriminalization that the legislature and government did in enacting the recent cannabis legislation, the fine for violating this ordinance is not in any means a criminal fine. It is simply a civil penalty of up to $200. So it is not a large penalty, but there is a minor penalty, for example, smoking illegal marijuana in River Road Park. So that's the sum and substance of it. I'll defer to Chief Rock if he has any other comments or wishes to add to that, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions on the ordinance that is up for adoption tonight.
John, can you just clarify? I heard you say that the ordinance does not affect medical marijuana, but it does prohibit consumption of marijuana in a public place. So just to be clear, if I had a license or whatever it is, a prescription to acquire medical cannabis, still does not, I still cannot consume that in public, correct?
No, this ordinance does not prohibit that.
So how does the police officer, how do we dovetail that versus like HIPAA, right? I mean, is you required to ask for someone to see their medical license?
One would have to seemingly ask for that or a person would show it. Again, one would hope that someone that has a license to use medical marijuana exercises discretion. And for example, if they decide to smoke or vape that, they would do that in the privacy of their home rather than in a public place. So.
Chief?
No, but just to echo what Mr. Bellardo just ended with, yeah, our profession gives you discretion. So every situation you have to look at and examine all the facts before you render a decision on how you're going to combat that. And, if somebody in past experience, medical marijuana cards have been, issued to citizens, we've come in contact with that. And, most of them freely show you their medical marijuana card. So I'd expect the same thing, that if somebody needs it because they have a medical condition and they're out in the public and they need to medicate themselves, that, they're going to produce the card or let us know that they have a medical reason that they're ingesting marijuana.
I agree with Chief Rock's statement there.
Is there a separate, whether it's dispensaries, you're still going to have medical marijuana dispensaries separate and apart from recreational dispensaries?
That's my understanding, yes.
So the procurement of medical marijuana is a different procurement from recreational cannabis.
As many of you have indicated, the commission is in the process of adopting regulations. Now, whether those final regulations would permit the intermixing of recreation and medical marijuana remains to be seen. We don't know yet until those final regulations are issued. There are certain states in the country where the medical dispensaries are separate and apart from the recreational dispensaries, and the legislature in those states have decided to keep a wall in place. So, for example, in the state of Maine, a medical dispensary is separate and apart from a recreational dispensary. And you will often see a green cross sign indicating this is a medical dispensary as opposed to a recreational cannabis dispensary.
John, where's the, in the ordinance, where's the carve out so folks know that if they have medical, that it's not, they're not subject to this?
The carve out is that the fact that cannabis, as defined by the state legislature, does not include medical cannabis dispensed to a registered qualifying patient pursuant to the J. Conant Compassionate Use Medical Act. If the committee was inclined to add express language that it excludes cannabis and add that language, we could do so. And come back on July 6th with that express language indicating that it does not include medical cannabis.
Right. All I'm looking forward to is avoidance of a problem. Someone who has a
Well, yeah, but
license
there-
that says, hey.
Let me take the other side of that. So, and you know, John, I'll take you on your word that medical marijuana can be consumed anywhere. So that means in a park, that the aerosolization, so smoking medical marijuana at a park is fine.
Let me take that.
We don't allow, we don't have cigarettes in our parks.
I mean, exactly.
It would be up to you as a governing body if you wanted to go the extra yard to prohibit that. And certainly we would do further research under the medical cannabis statute to see if there's any language in there that prohibits public consumption. But that is something, if you wanted us to look further into, we would have to carry this ordinance.
You know, one, I guess, concern would be that I listen to the radio every day, and on the radio every day, what's the station I listen to, I don't know, they guarantee you call the
Yes,
number,
right,
you
right.
get a doctor.
I've heard the same
write
ad.
you medical marijuana permit. So I mean,
Yep.
basically anybody can get it. They're guaranteeing it. They say, we guarantee you get approved to get, you know, a prescription for medical marijuana. So that would just mean anyone then could get it, and that anyone could then
Right.
smoke marijuana in our parks. And it would not be criminalized, which is what we want. We don't want it criminalized, right? But there's an intoxication factor that I don't know that we want everyone, you know, at a park smoking marijuana and being intoxicated in public, right? So I think that's something that we really have to kind of drill down on, because ultimately people are gonna find a loophole, right? If they want to smoke, and they want this little medical marijuana permit or whatever you get, I don't know, card, I'm sure that they'll be able to find it. So that's just something to take into consideration, right? We have to look at all of our residents, the ones who smoke medical marijuana, the ones who can get medical marijuana permit. It's announced on the radio. I don't know if everything you hear on the radio is true, right? Like everything you read on the internet, I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but that being said, we do have like all of our residents to think about families with little children. Do they want people intoxicated at the park? That's all. It's just something to think about. Both sides of it, you know, people are sure, and you know, smoke, but there's an intoxication factor, and our people have, you know,
And then,
expressed
and then there's
their
the
concern.
smoking element,
Smoking, yeah.
separate and apart from the intoxication is
Cigarettes
just,
are a lot,
Right.
So that's just something. to consider.
I was a bit more out there than that. I think you're more, you know, closer to the reality of what we would probably deal with. I'm talking about someone who's got a medical, I don't know, it's a license, I don't know. Permit.
it's a
Card.
prescription.
They've got a card to purchase and consume, and then they look at our ordinance and they say, well, you can't do that. That's against the law. I don't want to deal with having to fight over the constitutionality of what we're doing here. So if the intention is that that's a loophole, do we want to say it or do we not? I mean, that's my issue.
Well, I think the issue I'm hearing from Committeewoman Fernandez is that it would be her inclination to amend this ordinance to prohibit the consumption of medical marijuana in public places, and we would do further research on that. And I think what I'm hearing from Committeeman Stevenson is he wants to, and again, both of you could tell me if I'm misinterpreting your statements, he wants to specifically point out that consumption of medical marijuana in a public place is not prohibited by this ordinance.
So I'm not saying that I want to have it prohibited. I'm just saying that essentially anyone will be able to get a medical marijuana prescription according to what I'm hearing on the radio. So that is take into consideration. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I want to prohibit it or not. I'm just saying that that's something to take into consideration.
Although conceptually with legalized recreational marijuana, you wouldn't need the card. And I've heard that same ad and I thought the same thing, like really? So if anyone is guaranteed to get the prescription, to get the card, call this number, we guarantee you a doctor will issue you that card, right? That sort of, honestly, to some extent diminishes the benefits and really the validity of medicinal or medical marijuana in the first place by making it so accessible and essentially turning the prescription into a farce. But at the same time, with the legalization of recreational, do you really need to even bother going through a doctor? You won't really need it. I guess the only issue is in public consumption. And to me, I look at it from a smoking standpoint, and which is, I would focus on the aerosolization within the public parks. And from my perspective, perhaps not as much as the other consumption methods.
Look, I'll confess, I didn't know until 5 minutes ago that there was a carve out for medical. I thought it was covered within the ordinance, to be honest with you. So it was news to me to hear that, no, if you have medical, you're outside of this. And that's why I was sort of looking through it saying, well, where does it say that? I always thought that we were just passing this ordinance that would apply vis-a-vis the product. And if you have a medical license, great, you can go to your dispensary, but you're still not going to consume it in public. But if that's not what this is doing, then maybe we need to be express about it. Or alternatively, if we want to say, well, let's look into it and see if we can.
Well, we've got it. So either we have an ordinance before us, we can give direction to John to revise, but frankly, it doesn't sound like we have, well, perhaps we need some legal advice from John, whether or not, John, your thought that medical marijuana cannot be restricted in public settings.
I have to look further into that. I don't have the medical marijuana statute memorized by heart, so I would have to go back and look at that. And you might recall then when we looked at this from a zoning perspective, there was questions from both myself and my office as to whether you wanted to prohibit medical marijuana uses expressly in the zoning ordinance, and there was a decision not to at that time because they were not covered by the opt-out act.
Correct.
So you're sort of dovetailing into the same issue here. Do you want to prohibit public use of medical cannabis? And then I would defer to Chief Rock. I think, as the mayor said, is someone that's obtaining it from a medical standpoint for medical reasons more likely to decide, I'm going to smoke this in the park because I'm treating my cancer? Or is someone that is illegally smoking marijuana more likely to smoke in a park? And I'll defer to Chief Rock, but I think probably the probability that an illegal user would smoke in public is much greater than someone impacted by a medical condition such as cannabis. But all of these things, of course, are policy decisions that you have to grapple with and decide what you want to do in terms of your final ordinance.
But I do think that we need that legal, right now, we need to know, does state law restrict municipalities from, well, from further restricting medical marijuana in public settings, or the consumption of medical marijuana in public settings?
Medical marijuana, medicinal marijuana is legal, right? It is legal.
Yes.
It was already legal, right?
Yes.
So, and has that been what we've seen? Have we seen trends of people smoking medicinal marijuana in public? Has it been prohibited prior to this? I mean, I guess all smoking in parks is prohibited, right? So was that already prohibited? I mean, was it already allowed and it's just not happening? I mean, it's kind of
Maybe John knows.
up in the air.
Chief would know.
Yeah.
Chief knows.
I mean, Chief can opine as to the incidence of medical marijuana or even regular marijuana use in public places, and whether it has been a problem, something common or not common.
Correct. So I can't recall a time when we've responded to a call, say somebody's walking in the, Hills Village Shopping Center, and somebody called to say, hey, by the way, somebody's walking down a sidewalk smoking marijuana. So I don't think the frequency of it, exists. So, do people with a medical marijuana card, maybe it's covered by a state statute that said you can't do it outside, or they just do it in the confines of their own private area.
So it's basically in Bedminster, how things in Bedminster thus far with legal medicinal marijuana, it's a non-issue. People aren't doing it. So.
I'm sorry?
So now this question is, can we restrict public consumption? Look,
But
but
there's not a need.
if you have medical, marijuana,
There might be
can
someone.
can you smoke and drive at the same time?
No.
I
You-
would
you
probably
can.
hazard. You
But you're
can,
probably
but
not
is that-
supposed to.
But is
Probably not a
that,
good
yeah,
idea.
is that legal?
I would say as long as you're not under the influence and you can operate a motor vehicle without impairment, you can. Just like, if you have a drink or two of alcohol, you have to meet that threshold of impairment and operation in order to be held accountable under the traffic statutes.
But we did hear, and this was with Melissa and Fuad's presentation, that driving and consuming at the same time is still not legal.
Correct.
Correct.
But it's not a DUI offense.
So I'm just saying that as it stands right now, it's saying medicinal marijuana, that recreational use of marijuana is prohibited in parks, and that medicinal is an exception, right? That's
That's not what it says.
that's not what it says.
It says that you can't do it, period. So there's no, it doesn't distinguish between medical and non. That's why I'm getting turned
See,
around.
I'm looking at all the smoking, vaping and aerosolizing as equally bad for the other people standing behind you.
Right.
Whether it's medical or recreational, it's not good for the
Secondhand.
people around you. Secondhand smoke's terrible.
Right.
Secondhand
Right.
vaping is even worse.
Okay.
So whether it's, to me, it doesn't matter whether it's recreational or medical. And
Right, that's what I'm saying, we have to
So-
think of all of our residents, but also if it's already legal to do and it's not being done, it's not necessarily an issue. And if it's, to make the exception for medical marijuana.
So the two parts of the ordinance, the first one regards the parks, and then the second part regards public places. So I just want to be clear, so.
Yeah, no, so public places, I had another question about that, I'm sorry, I have other questions about this. It's very new, some guidance from the state would be phenomenal.
and that's what we're
But,
waiting for.
So say that, I'm just gonna give you an example, we have this like great siren, right, and people, it's outdoors and somebody wants to smoke recreational marijuana, it's like, is that legal? Based on this,
That's private property.
is it private or is it public?
You cannot smoke cannabis under this ordinance is defined by reference to the state statute. Cannabis does not include medical. cannabis, as I've indicated. So medical cannabis
John,
in
where are
a
you reading
public
from?
place.
Sorry to interrupt you. Where are you reading from?
Because if you have to go look, Committeeman Stevenson, at the definition of cannabis, it would be simply by reference to the state statute, which excludes it under the new law.
Medicinal. Just like.
So Doug, being a lawyer, is looking at provision S, consumption of cannabis and marijuana, is looking to tie it back to a definition in that ordinance. And the only definition, John, that you're referring back to is the state definition.
Yes, if you wanted to add bells and whistles, we could add a definition for cannabis that simply repeats the definition in the state statute. And I read you that definition before, that excludes medical cannabis dispensed to registered qualifying patients pursuant to the Jake Honig Compassionate Use Medical Act.
I just think we got to do something to tighten that up so that folks who have the medical license aren't confused and think that we've done something that prevents them and it's illegal and lawful and we have to deal with that legal.
Unless that's what
Unless
we intend, unless
we
that's what
intend to do it, right, but,
No,
right.
I don't think that.
But I'm hearing from council that the intent of the ordinance is not to address that. So.
It's not the intent, it doesn't address that. So
Well,
I agree with Committeeman Stevenson, and I don't think it would, again, depending upon what you want to do. But if you wanted to put bells and whistles on it, we don't have to adopt this tonight. We're under no rush. This isn't a zoning ordinance. This is a public health and safety ordinance. I could tighten it up by adding a definition of cannabis. That would be simple to do. And
so one is I do, as another lawyer, I do want the definition in there. But then I also want to know whether or not public consumption of medical or medicinal marijuana can be restricted.
Put that on the table.
And we can do that and get back to you relatively shortly with that.
All right, so John, are we all in agreement that's the direction to John? Yes, yes, yes. Colin?
Yes.
Okay, so John, that means we are going to table the ordinance tonight, continue for the next township committee meeting.
Did you want to ask if Lefty had a question? That
No.
might, okay.
The only thing I will advise, if you do decide that you want to prohibit medical cannabis, that's a substantive change that would require a reintroduction. Again, not a huge deal. It's something that you would just have to further reintroduce and then schedule for another public hearing.
And this, we've got the two out there, right? The one's being referred to the planning board for an opinion that's not inconsistent with the master plan. And then we have this one.
Correct.
This, are we under is this subject to that August?
No, it's
This is
the license.
Yeah, that's for licensing. That's a zoning issue. That's for citing businesses.
Right. So
This is for consumption in our public parks
Right.
and public places.
right. So in other words, if we had to.
We could do this
renotice,
next year. We could do this 3 years from now. We could never do it.
Yeah, look, I think we should know that information before we.
You have plenty of time, and it'll be simple enough for my office to go back and get you that information. And I think that's probably the better thing to do at this particular point.
So that would involve a reintroduction. So that means this will not be, we will not have a public hearing on this ordinance at our next township committee meeting, but most likely August.
Sorry.
No, let me stop you there.
His research says that you can't do it and you only have to do it the way it's drafted. And then.
Right.
Then we can.
Right now.
But then we need to know.
Right.
Right.
We're conditionally tabling. We may have to reintroduce it if we decide to go the extra
For
step.
Well, I mean, look, I take a different position. I would say that as your initial read, because you've got, John, are cannabis and marijuana defined similarly? Because marijuana is essentially the hashish and the non-legal purchases of cannabis. So they're falling,
The reason we have prohibited cannabis is because cannabis has been made legal by the legislature. The definition of cannabis made legal by the legislature excludes illegal marijuana.
okay, so in that provision S, you've got consumption of cannabis and marijuana. So you're attacking that ordinance, the way it's drafted, is attacking the consumption of whether it's legally purchased cannabis or illegally purchased marijuana. It's really attacking the consumption in the public parks.
Yes.
Okay. So
And-
medical marijuana is excluded from the definition of cannabis at the state level.
Correct.
And is excluded from the definition of marijuana, which is illegally purchased cannabis. So then right now, medical would appear to fall completely out once those definitions are defined or fine-tuned to reflect that.
Right. So for example, if you decided at the next meeting, I came back and if you decided the next meeting you wanted to permit or continue to permit medical marijuana and you just wanted to point out by adding the definition that medical marijuana is excluded from cannabis, that's not substantive because this ordinance already says medical marijuana is excluded. But if you decide you want to go a step further, if permitted, and ban medical marijuana in parks and public settings, that's substantive.
I would rather have a discussion and reintroduce.
That's
I would
fine
rather-
too.
Yeah, I would rather have that discussion and then bring it back for an introduction and another public hearing.
That's fine. So you're tabling, which means you don't need to have a public hearing tonight if you choose to do that. And we'll simply come back at the next meeting with further advice.
That's my thought.
That's
Doug?
fine.
Yeah, no,
Gina?
I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I would like more information on the medical versus recreational.
Or just define,
I mean, the answer very well could be, sorry, you can't do it, right? So then our decision's made for us.
Right.
We need to know.
Colin, are you in agreement?
Yeah, and I also, just to tee on to what Doug said, when I look back at our Board of Health resolution, they specifically call out both medicinal and recreational as prohibiting them in any public space. So at least that's a recommendation coming from our own Board of Health. So if we do have the opportunity to do it, then we have to take it under consideration, given the input from some of our experts.
Okay, so we will table the public hearing.
You need a motion, Mayor, just to be.
No, I'm just going through it, that we would table this. We would have a subsequent discussion and then perhaps a reintroduction sometime, once again, most likely sometime in August.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion to table the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so for, let's see, get my notes out here. Mr. Grimes and Mr. King, we will not be having the public hearing because we will not be taking action on this ordinance tonight. So you can follow Bedminster Township and see the next time that this police ordinance comes up for discussion, for introduction, and subsequently for public hearing.
Will there be more public comment later in the meeting?
No,
Because I have light to,
no,
Sorry.
I could help you with the situation, actually.
no, that's okay. Thank you very much. But
Well, I know a lot about.
that's what our attorneys are for. And let's move on to resolutions. We have 10 resolutions.
Clear these out.
Consent agenda?
Okay,
We have nothing on the consent agenda.
sorry, that's my fault.
All right, resolutions 2021-082. This resolution authorizes the insertion of a special item of revenue and insertion of an item of appropriation for equal amount in the 2021 budget to include funding for the 2021 Clean Communities Grant. Ms. Ray.
Right, so this is what's called the Chapter 159 when we didn't have the funding available during our budget preparation. So this is after the fact, which allows us to take the money into our budget.
Any questions or comments?
No.
Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-082?
So moved.
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-083, this resolution reappoints a temporary qualified purchasing agent and maintains the bid threshold of $44,000. Ms. Ray.
Sure. So this is the third time that we're actually appointing Sarah Hausman as our temporary QPA. Just wanted to make you aware of that. And this has been done through the DLGS.
And Sarah's she's in process to take her classwork, take the
Correct.
course for QPA.
Correct. All she needs to do now is take the exam, which she will be doing later this fall.
Great. Any other questions or comments?
Only comment is I would just say that all of my interactions with Sarah have been excellent. She's been very, very good. So happy to see her elevating and moving on.
May we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-083?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Resolution 2021-084. This resolution sets the township employee salaries effective January 1, 2021. Ms. Ray.
Okay, sure. So this is a standard resolution that we do every year, and this is based on the 2% increase for staff across the board, and it makes it retroactive to January 1st.
Okay, so this is for all the positions. Weren't we still waiting to hear back on adjustments to DPW salaries?
We took care of that with
Okay.
this. So we went
Okay.
through the first two. We had passed two resolutions for 2019 and then 2020, and this sets the salary for 2021, so they will be current.
Okay,
Okay?
any questions or comments? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-084?
So,
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson.
aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Resolution 2021-085, this resolution appoints a new emergency management coordinator and deputy coordinator. So with this, Zach Rubin is moving to deputy coordinator and Chris Crowell will be serving as emergency management coordinator.
Both done great work.
Yep.
Both great guys.
Yep, so
We're
we're
in good
not
hands.
seeing no questions or comments. Maybe a motion to approve.
I'm with that.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Let's see. Resolution 2021-086. This resolution appoints new members to the Historic Preservation Commission, Environmental Commission, and Land Use Board due to resignations. I'm just curious, do you,
Oops.
what?
Tim is spelled
Yeah,
usually
it's
without
time.
an E.
I see
Fine,
that.
yeah.
Maybe that's how he spells it.
We'll
It
fix
could
that.
be. Silent E.
So,
Never know.
you know, maybe Renee can have two E's at the end. Maybe Tim
Timmy.
can have one
Thank you.
E at the end. And Stephen first on this one?
No, he's not on this one.
All right, well, we can approve this one.
And we can do another first.
Yeah, we can do another one if we need to do that as well, although
Just thinking of that as you're
those are, yeah.
saying that.
Okay, so subject to getting rid of the extra E in, well, the extra E in Tim's name. May I have a motion to approve 2021-086.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-087. This resolution appoints Robin Ray to the position of municipal clerk. Ms. Ray, would you care to explain?
Sure, I'm so excited. I passed my exam on the first try. Just found out last week, so I'm waiting to get my official letter in the mail, hopefully with the grade. And, but.
Your grade is a pass.
Yes, well, right now it's a pass, so I'm very happy.
She got a pass with a plus. in
It's
front.
like the bar. You don't have to ace it, just pass it.
That's true. You're right. So this resolution actually takes me from acting clerk to the township as a registered municipal clerk going forward.
All right.
So moved.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve. We need a second.
I'll second
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson,
that. Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Congratulations and aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye,
Ms.
congratulations.
Fernandez, and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you and
Thank you.
congratulations.
Great job.
Woo-hoo.
No one up here had any doubts at all of your passing that test.
Sweating it out.
Oh, please. This resolution, I'm sorry, resolution 2021-088. This resolution authorizes the renewal of Fiddler's Elbow Country Club liquor license for the period of July 1, 2021 until June 30, 2022. Chief Rock,
Yes, sir. Mayor, we did.
have you
we did the-
you've reviewed the Fiddler's Elbow liquor license application?
I did, and I had my two detectives went out and performed an appliance inspection. Everything was found to be in order with that at the establishment. Came back and checked the police department records, and there was nothing of concern that would, not prevent them from, the town committee from renewing their license.
Great. Any questions or comments for the chief? Yeah, we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-088.
So moved.
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez, and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, resolution 2021-089. This resolution authorizes the renewal of Delicious Heights Enterprises Corp. liquor license for the period of July 1, 2021 until June 30, 2022. Chief Rock.
Yes, Mayor, the two same detectives responded out to Delicious Heights and conducted a random compliance inspection. They completed the ABC compliance inspection report, and they found everything to be in order. They also responded and checked the police department record history, found no adverse acts to not recommend they renew the license.
Okay. Any further questions or comments for Chief Rock?
Nope.
We have a motion to approve resolution 2021-089.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez, and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-090. This resolution authorizes the renewal of Grateful Spirits, Inc. liquor license for the period of July 1, 2021 until June 30, 2022. Chief Rock.
My detective bureau, and we were assisted at this inspection by an investigator from the New Jersey Alcohol Beverage Commission, because I was without my current ABC inspector. They performed their random inspection. They checked all of the records. They came back and said that everything was in compliance and there was no adverse reports within our records management system. So I said, they should be approved by the Township Committee.
And for Grateful Spirits is Colonial Liquors?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Or questions for Chief Rock or comments regarding the renewal? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-090?
So moved.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez, and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-091. This resolution authorizes the renewal of Cold Spring Liquor Corp. liquor license for the period of July 1, 2021 until June 30, 2022. Cold Spring Liquor Corp. Hamilton?
Pluckerman.
Pluckman. Oh, Pluckman.
Pluckman.
Oh, geez. I'm my bad. Chief Rock.
Yes, Mayor. Two detectives as well as the ABC asset went out and performed a compliance inspection at the Pluckerman Inn. Everything was found to be in order with their paperwork. Also, a check of our records management system indicated no adverse actions within the establishment. And it would be my recommendation that the Township Committee approves the liquor license.
If no other questions or comments regarding the resolution, may I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-091?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez, and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
May we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
Second.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez, and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
So we've already covered the Pony Farm, old business COVID, we've covered COVID. Gina and Renee, construction permits, fees, and technology proposals.
Okay, so I'm gonna start in the next one. So you recall our Ken Rogers presented us some fee increases and some possible consequences for open permits. So we were assigned to a committee to review his proposal and go over some things with him. So I interviewed realtors from different agencies, local realtors, and the owners of a local real estate agency. And they agreed that fee increases are reasonable and penalizing homeowners for open permits is unreasonable. And it would deter people from getting permits in the first place. So I just wanted to briefly update you on what the increases would be. For example, currently Bedminster is not able to be them in 5 years. And our fees are significantly lower than surrounding areas. So to make our fees comparable to our surrounding areas, for example, from $35 to $37 per $1,000 worth of work would be the increase, or from $31 to $33 for $1,000 worth of work, from $50,000 to $100,000, and then from $27 to $29 per $1,000 worth of work for $100,000 worth of work plus. Okay, so it's very minute increases, and those are for renovations, for roofing, siding, townhomes, it would go from $150 to $165. For pools, it would go from $150 to $165. So minimal increases to just bring us comparable to neighboring towns. So I think we sort of went over that last time, and based on the input from the people that I've interviewed and discussed this with, those fees all seem very reasonable. In addition, our construction official would like to propose a new technology upgrade called spatial data logic, which the comparable towns that we're raising our fees to all have. So Baskin Ridge, Burnsville have this program called spatial data logic. And homeowners can just go online and they can fill things out online. They can look up open permits on the property. Anyone can look that up. And inspectors can go out, take pictures and just upload everything, right? So it's just kind of going from pencil and paper to
Digital.
digital. But there's costs, of course, associated with it. So the licensing is $8,250. The hosting, licensing, subscription is $7,000. Installation is $2,400. I think the total for the upgrade would be $17,650 right off the bat, and then $11,850 per year moving forward after that. Okay.
How, can you just run those numbers again?
Yeah, so they're in,
It's expensive.
it's expensive, right? So when we discussed it with Ken, we said, can you please share this information with our technology director, make sure that it's something that will work for Bedminster, and Deshaun is currently looking into it, and we're gonna give it some time, but I do want to discuss the costs with Township Committee before we even move forward with that. So there's a proposal from Spatial Data Logic, and the total cost, the initial off the bat cost would be $17,650. And then moving forward after that is $11,850 per year. And it's broken down, but I just.
So the surrounding towns, you said Berners? Oh, so Burnsville uses it.
Yeah, that
Okay.
Burnsville uses it, yeah. And that, I actually heard about that from the realtors that I was talking to, because they said, well, you know, yeah, absolutely, the fee increase is reasonable, but to justify, you should probably upgrade your technology, plus it would make keeping track of everything.
Right, so like, what's the efficiency that program gets?
So everything is online now. So the homeowners can access all the forms online, you're taking away what is like pencil paper, you're making everything digital, plus you can track where open permits are. Currently, there is not really.
You don't want to go to jail if you. sell a house with an open permit.
No.
So now you can just go on, you
No,
just
so
go
that's
online
off
and
the
find out,
table.
geez,
We are not penalizing anyone to take that out of.
smoking pot's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
but-
keep your permit open though.
You could do that with
Well,
this
I
table.
mean, ultimately, the problem behind it is that a lot of times homeowners have nothing to do with the permit application process, that's the contractor. So there's no permit, how are you gonna penalize homeowners?
Right,
And a house can't close with no permit.
right,
So.
right.
But the fee increase is a go. We discussed that, I think we discussed that prior to this. But in addition to that, we wanted to talk about how we're gonna upgrade our service to our residents that we're now, you know, we're increasing the fees, what are we doing in return? Kind of. So the spatial data logic is what all neighboring towns are using. It's in addition to our new taco, expressed that this would be the best. She's used it in prior towns that she worked in, well, most little towns. But there's a cost associated with it, right? So, again, the initial cost is $17,650, and then moving forward, it'd be $11,850 per year, which I'm assuming would come out of the construction budget. We would have to budget that in construction budget. However, the initial $17,000, so that's something that Township Committee has to discuss. Is we did budget for technology upgrades, and I don't know if the difference between the $11,000 per year, if that wants to come out of the technology budget. I know Colin's like, no, not technology, but we did budget for technology upgrades, we didn't specify where the technology upgrades would come from. So that's really just up to Township Committee to decide if we want to offer this new spatial data logic technology upgrade to our residents. And also there is a new, so Renee's gonna talk a little bit about the state requirements that are coming, right?
You got
You
Ken,
have-
here, got Ken who wants to.
Oh,
Ken Rogers
okay.
is here.
Sure.
Thank you.
I just want to mention, I think the annual fee was $5,300.
Oh, I don't,
I don't have that paperwork in front of me, but I think it was $5,300 annually, not $11,000. So it's a little different in the annual cost. But I'd have to confirm that from there.
There's an ongoing license.
It's $5,400 a year.
so I don't know why I said, on mine it says ongoing license. Like,
11,850.
11,850. But maybe that's, right?
That might be an increased number of seats. For the 5 seats for the construction office, I think it was $5,400 a year.
I don't know, on mine it says something different, so.
Yeah, that
that's-
doesn't add up either, because that's,
It said 5 seats / named users, 8,250, and then SCL hosting, 3,600, for a total of 11,850. So I don't know.
For a year or something.
Can I make a suggestion? Because any software proposal, especially when they end with trailing zeros, these are list prices, right? This is kind of the standard quote that a vendor will give you when you don't ask for anything else. So I think we really need to go through this, understand what's included and what's not included. You know, you look at a number like $2,400 for installation. Well, the vendor throws that in there because they think they can get away with it. What are they truly installing, particularly if this is a web-based application, right? There's really nothing being installed on the township computers outside of having access and authentication through a web browser, most likely. But I'd really like to be able to go through this line by line with the vendor and also have Vashant make an assessment of what it will take to implement it and make sure that it's complementary to our architecture and there are additional expenses. And then just to go back and address, when we did develop that $10,000 IT budget, that was for specific items that we had earmarked for upgrades for this year in a variety of domains. It did not include this because this is new to us. My understanding is that Vashant just saw this as of Friday afternoon. So we need to go through this and understand exactly what's here.
Yeah, 100%. So I agree with that, but I also think Township Committee should, have their input if we even want to move forward with. This is something that we feel like would benefit our residents and we want to even move forward with before people spend too much time, reviewing. But I agree with you 100% that this is something that someone in the technology department should look over because I have no idea, what these things mean. Like you do.
And there's definitely, there's this SDL hosting service, 5,400 a year versus the ongoing licensing, which is the 11,850 that Gina mentioned.
Yes, it's maybe something.
And as Colin said, I think we're getting rust proofing with this as well. So
And the undercoating, Mayor.
You call now. You
the
get-
undercoating product, you're getting that. This is,
So Gina covered like everything that I was going to say, except that this is going through the Senate. That this is, we're going to have to provide these to our customers, all the things that Gina was talking about, being able to go online and find where your stuff is, being able to, what's the word? Schedule an approval, an inspection. We're going to have to do that. The good part of this is we don't have to do it until within the year when the bill is passed, which it's not. Yes. I won't know anything.
I was just gonna follow up. You're saying there's an actual bill pending in Trenton for this?
Yeah.
Yep,
So is
1739.
it possible that if this thing gets passed and Trenton frees up some money for the municipalities
It's
to implement it?
possible, except that the bill permits local enforcing agencies to collect surcharge fees during the 3-year period, so probably not. Following the implementation in order to defray startup costs. So that's kind of a good thing. We can put costs in, except that I don't know that we want to charge
so,
our residents more money to pay for this much
so
technology.
John, if that, and John may not be familiar with that bill, but if you've got a bill that says, hey, municipalities, you've got to digitize your permitting construction approval process, and we're authorizing you to have a special surcharge on your construction fees, is that an end run for the state to get around the unfunded mandate limit?
Of course it is. And I know we've had previous offline discussions about the council on local mandates, but for the most part, anyone or any municipality that has ever attempted to go there has never succeeded or rarely. So they do put those in the bills to prevent you from claiming it's an unfunded mandate.
So they're allowing you to, so just so everyone knows that the way the construction process is supposed to work, fees in, expenses out, right? They should roughly approximate each other. The legislature is giving you some dispensation to have a surcharge to offset the expense of implementing this program, if that bill proceeds, and my guess is the bill probably will proceed. But it is interesting that some of the small towns around us are already using this technology or similar technology. And they're all using SDL, or is there a,
Yeah, no,
that's the one they use?
And just input that Sean did give me is that he spoke to Reed from Spatial Data Logic, and he's gonna get in touch with the developer to answer more questions that he has in detail, but he does know that the application is lightweight and access is primarily via web to a hosted data. I don't even know what that really means, but it basically means it's not an issue for us, is what he said. So it will host everything on the cloud and internet. They will back up our data and provide redundancy.
Which is gonna cost a bunch.
Jen Rogers has another question.
Just a couple other comments, actually. I believe from the information that's been disseminated to us through our associations, that bill has already passed both House and Senate, and the governor signed it into law last month. And
What's
we
the,
we are actually awaiting the DCA's
Senate 17.
direction to us as code enforcement agencies as
Looked it up at one
how
time.
to implement it.
So,
I could be looking at old stuff.
so we're talking about two different things, right? We're talking about construction fees and being increased, right? We need to kind of do that resolution, but in addition, we're talking about technology upgrades. So there's two separate things.
imposes mandatory fine and education requirement for certain prostitution offenses.
What?
Oh, that's Assembly Bill 1739.
Senate Bill 1730.
1739.
Hey, you gotta make some money around here sometime.
1739.
Electronic processing review
Substituted.
system.
I don't see it
Yeah.
signed yet.
Oh, good.
But
Senate Amendment 37, passed Senate Amendment in January, substituted by 1145. Let me just check.
I
that.
didn't know what that meant,
yeah.
but it didn't,
Oh,
it didn't.
Passed Assembly on March 1st, approved Public Law 2021, Chapter 70, April 30, 2021. So it's an approved PL,
Which
Doug,
is,
Legal Research,
Public law.
Public Law. There you go. So it's now law.
so now it's on,
So the
okay.
timers of that. Okay.
So this is.
So we have
short
a year
discussion
from
is,
when-
Yeah, I think we should get it.
Yeah, and then,
So-
you know, the funding for it. I don't know.
You do a surcharge.
Just back charge Trenton.
Huh?
We'll just send Trenton the bill.
I like
I'm
that.
sure somebody will pay it.
And then we could get the one we want.
So, just the next steps, I guess, and Sean is gonna look over this and Colin as well, and, they're gonna look for the technological aspect of it and really go through with the developer and break it down, what is the actual cost, what is actually gonna cost us? And then we need to decide, you know, if we're moving forward with this program, do we wanna get multiple bids? This is the one that all neighboring town would use, so logically, that would be the one. And,
And the system we have now can be upgraded, but it wouldn't be as good as the system we're looking at.
What do you mean, the system we have now?
Right, Ken?
We currently use Mitchell Humphreys, and they're working on an electronic plan review and open access portion of the program. They're expecting the fee to be around $17,000 a year for that product. They haven't confirmed anything, but that's what they're talking about. And I'm also talking to the International Code Council because they have produced their own program that's similar to SDL, and they're putting together a price proposal for me as well, so that we have something to compare it to.
So that's good, so we can compare. them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to look and see what's out there, but whoever's looking at it, whether it's Colin, Gina, Renee, Ken, just make sure that there's no fee or penalty to offload the data to a new, better server somewhere else. You know, that would be a disaster if we marry up to somebody and then we're stuck with them and then we can't get rid of it. If something better comes down the line,
Oh.
something more cost effective.
Something
know,
always does.
Well, right, you know, competition's gonna drive this price down, you'd
Sure.
hope. And now if everybody's now
Well-
mandated to get on board with it, you've got folks that want to get into the field. I'm sure there's gonna be new products entering.
Gina, didn't you
market.
say that this was cloud-based?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
Sean said.
It is, but that's an excellent point, Doug, because ownership of the data is always critical in these contracts, because if you don't have express ownership of that data, the company can walk away and say, sorry, you're out of luck.
That's right.
Even if it's
You're starting from
cloud-based?
Scratch.
It doesn't matter if it's cloud-based, doesn't matter where it runs.
Okay.
Whoever owns the data.
Portal, if you need to log into their portal, to
Yeah.
access your information, which you probably do.
Yep.
But if their
I'm sure.
terms of use are when you stop doing business with us, we take our portal and we close it to you. You have to recreate Humpty Dumpty, put it together again with a whole new thing. That's gonna be a disaster. So just make sure the exit strategy there is for us.
Correct.
And when actually proposals do come in with contracts and agreements, you send them through council.
Yes.
And I'm not sure they could actually do that because it's supposed to be open public records, all of those records. So they shouldn't have the legal right. And of course, Mr. Bellardo could talk to that,
Right,
but
they
they should have the legal
they
right
should-
to close the door on those open public records.
They should not, but once that service is over, the ability to migrate it to a new platform, we just want to certainly make sure that it is capable of being migrated without having to pay for anything further.
And this, and obviously, it's something that just passed into law and it is beneficial to our residents. It's just, we have to look at what's the best product, I guess, for our town and, I guess time is of the essence.
And I guess the issue is
Well,
then paying for
I'm
it, just
paying
as
for it.
Renee said. So assuming that the version of the bill that Renee read is the same version that was adopted, right? So it allows you the ability to place a surcharge. Do you want to do it through a surcharge? And then a question for Deb might be, if we build it into a surcharge going forward, how can we budget for that as an anticipated revenue? Is that something that we're authorized to do? Because if we haven't accounted for that revenue in the budget process,
Yeah.
does that then give us the opportunity to do so as we move forward?
Right.
We have to have several years of history, at least 3 years of history to be able to anticipate.
But the state is giving you the ability to do surcharge revenue now. So you could say whether that surcharge is 5% surcharge, 10% surcharge, whatever it is.
Well, we can only do it for 3 years.
Right. So then you might
So
do a
then we have
3-year
to-
look back and say, this has been our revenues over 2018, 2019, 2020. So leverage on top of that.
Thank you both of you for doing that.
Yeah. And you still have a lot more to do. So, it's not, it's not like it's over.
It's also looking at like the technology and then Sean's feedback for that is needed. And then also, looking at, we get multiple bids, I guess. But again, time is of the essence because it's that long, so we need to do sooner than later.
Yeah, it says in this version of the bill, we have a year, but the year goes by fast.
Sure does.
So,
Yeah, you're gonna be, into the next budget session. That's where it's gotta get.
Right, and
Baked
so
out.
do we want to, so the thing was, the construction fee increase, that's not the surcharge, right, that we're talking about to cover the cost of this, it's just the fee increase. Which is reasonable, and I think we all can agree that that's like, minimal,
that's fine.
and it's just making us comparable to other towns. Do we want to pass that, separate from the
Surcharge, yeah.
the spatial data surcharge or whatever program we use, data surcharge? Because I guess you can look at it 2 ways. You can say, okay, well, we're increasing your fees, and then same resolution, we're also, giving you advanced technology, or you can look at it as we budgeted for an increase in revenue in construction fees, and the longer we wait to implement them, the less money construction is gonna bring in. So we have to kind of look, do we want to keep them separate, or do you want to keep them together? They're two separate things.
I think we should split them apart.
Yeah, I mean, if we've made the determination that we're lagging behind other folks in real time on what it costs to pull a permit or whatever you're paying your fees for, that consideration is just to bring us on level with our neighbors. And then this is something extra coming in, but.
Well, we're gonna have to, that again, because we're gonna have to implement a surcharge, I guess, to cover the cost, so they're still gonna have to be separate, right? Because the fee increase, we don't want to confuse that with the surcharge.
So
I wouldn't.
Gina, as put on not your township committee hat or your school teacher hat, but your construction hat. So what's your company's experience with these online construction forms? Is it something that your office is handling? Or
Yeah,
your?
well, or the ability to like schedule your inspector online is.
So your brother and the company, they're using it, and Gus is using
We
it?
have one too, we own our own company as well, so, yeah, we use it for certain towns, the online application.
Then you find it much easier and
It's so much
quicker?
easier, yes.
Okay.
It's just, we gotta get with the times. It's 2021, like,
Well, that'll cut labor costs, won't it? Because then Ken doesn't have to call everybody back if it's online and
well,
they
and it also
schedule.
just makes it, just simpler, it's just technology does.
And a more
Very
user-friendly.
Exactly, so,
Now, just curious, so in a lot of, what we hear from applicants and just about everyone else has been an applicant in some form or another. When you fill those forms out, does it tell you if there's something deficient in your application? So oftentimes, I think we had this recently with one of the major construction projects, is they thought they were complete.
the form.
The applicant thought they were complete, and they were told again and again, you need to do this. And there was a disconnect
Yeah, I've
before
heard that.
what was missing, that there
Oh,
was
Yeah, so
discrete
just-
missing information.
Just tell me right up front what I'm missing. I'll fill it all out at once. I don't have to come back 42 times.
Right,
to
so
fill out
if
what's on the
if
form.
the online form prompts you, hey,
Yeah,
you forgot to tell us
It should,
X, Y, and Z.
I guess that would be the spatial, I guess that depends on the particular company we choose to
Right.
go with, but as like, or the owner of a construction company, you don't miss anything, right? It's different than like an individual filling out a permit, like this is what you do, you just fill it out.
but just a regular person
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
in a
As an
house, they might not know.
individual, yeah.
Ken, do you know if when they set up the format that there
Did we
will
lose
be a
Ken?
stop, that you have to fill out this
Other,
red highlighted thing so that by the time they get done with the form, the applicants filled out everything that's
So
needed?
it's complete.
The forms need to be filled out complete, but the forms are not the information that the plan reviewer looks at. If the plan reviewer finds code deficiencies in the plan or the application, then what we do is issue them a letter that says, these are the items that are missing. Please submit them to us. And then once we receive them,
now
we
becoming,
issue them to them.
as opposed
Those
to-
will not show up in the forms, the electronic
Or like an email.
application forms. They're just a general form of, here I am, this is my address. I want to put an addition on my house. That's all that's going to be on. Essentially, that's all that's going to be on those forms.
Huh.
All of the information we plan review is in the plans.
So it just starts your conversation.
Yes.
Okay. Oh. I would have thought it would have more.
Well, and also,
It could have more, but then we pay that third party agency for the plan reviews, which we don't want to do.
Also, like, again, you wouldn't be issuing necessarily a letter, and you'd be issuing an email, and people could scan things and send them back to you. It just opens up a different,
Kind of
ability to
communication.
expedite things,
Yeah.
efficient. And it's the law. So we just
Well,
have to
now
figure
it's law,
out-
yeah.
So what's the takeaway for Gina and Renee for the next meeting?
So the next steps to me are that Vishant has to look over the technology portion of that, because I'm reading through this, but I don't exactly know what I'm looking at. Like Collins was, able to comment, and then also figuring out how we're gonna fund it, talking to Township Committee, how do we wanna do that, how much it's gonna cost, I guess. Getting multiple bids, at least 2 bids, right? So spatial data logic with Penson, he's talking to another program. And then also, if there's gonna be a fee associated with this technology upgrade, do we want to include that when we're approving the fee increase? Because remember, the fee increase is separate from this spatial data. These are 2 different things. One's technology upgrade and one is the fee increase. do we want to relate them, saying we're increasing your fees because we're, improving your technology, or do we want to wait and incorporate a surcharge just for the technology portion? And just do the fee increase separate and quicker, because we did budget for a fee increase for our construction income, and that needs to get, we need to get on the road with that. So.
I guess, hey, Gina, my concern on that is, the justification has been made of, we need to do this to be comparable to other towns, right?
Oh.
And that's why we can
And
justify.
now it's a law.
No, I understand it's a law, but I'm saying, but if you're talking about raising the fees right now, that's a cost to our
Oh,
customers,
sorry.
right?
Yeah.
And yet we're not providing the same service as other towns are right now. So I have a bit of a problem with that. We have a plan for a plan. We don't have anything definitive. I'd rather figure out, okay, what's the plan? Who's the vendor? How much is it going to cost? How do we budget for it? And then we tie it all together and say, okay, and now this is how much the fees are going to go up. Otherwise, we're upping our fees, and the customer is suffering because they don't have an equivalent level of service that other towns providing.
No, I understand what you're saying. It justifies the fee increase by having now a technology upgrade. But in addition to the fee increase, we're also going to have to implement a surcharge. What I'm saying so that is in addition to the construction fee increase, right? So do we want to put them all together? Do we want to keep them separately? I mean,
You suggesting maybe the fee is a little bit more of an increase, and we don't call it a surcharge, it's just a bump up in fee for a little more. And
we
then
can
know
only
we
do
take it
that
from
for
there.
3 years, though. The surcharge can only be for 3 years, and the fee increases.
That's forever.
I'd rather understand the economics on both sides of the ledger, but that may just be me. What are all the costs, sum total, and then what are the additional fees and surcharges that are going to be put onto our customers? And then we'll kind of figure out, what makes sense and what doesn't.
And to that point, we haven't really figured out what we're asking of the program, right? There could be other bells and whistles that, oh, you want that, that's an additional fee,
Yeah,
right? So we got to
exactly.
figure out what it
Naturally,
costs.
Ken and Sean have to kind of
Yeah,
figure that
yeah,
out. That's not-
exactly.
I know nothing.
Well, that's why I think we should keep them separate. I mean, I understand Colin's point, and I pretty much agree, don't do the raise in fees until we figure out what the new computer stuff's gonna be, but keep them as separate entities.
I get it.
Separate.
Right, because
Yeah.
to some extent, if, we are not where we should be on fees, irregardless of proceeding with this, we were already looking at adjusting the fees.
You're already looking at this.
And what the state allows you to do is put a surcharge. It doesn't require you to put a surcharge. You can come up with the funds for the data system
We're rich, we can do it.
out of general revenue.
Regardless, yeah, you're right, because the fee increase anyway is going to have to cover the ongoing cost of
Right.
whatever that is,
Yeah.
1,000, 5,000, I don't know what it is. But the initial, I guess, purchase, 17,000, that would be the surcharge then for it.
Right, because then you're gonna be stuck with that 11,000, and that 11,000 is gonna, let's say it's 11,000 or whatever. So with 11 or 5,000, then next year it'll be 6,000 and 7,000. So you still need to increase, you get a surcharge to get it going. But once again, just like the police cameras, the body cams, the money they give you is nice to get you going, but it's not nearly going to cover the cost of operating.
Exactly. So I guess our next steps compare multiple programs, and Ken and Vishant really have to decide what's gonna work for Bedminster.
Right, and I think we'd also like to know what the user experience is on the other side of the two, if you're going to get two different bids, what's the user experience, right? So how does the public interface with this? What feedback do they get, or what opportunities do they have for enhanced communication, ease of use?
Is it too much to ask to have the vendor come in and present to us what this will look like? We've got a beautiful system up here.
It's a great idea.
I mean, because we're doing new computer stuff at my office, and it's a nightmare when you just try to explain it to somebody, but it works better when you get on a Zoom meeting and you
Right.
can see
Share
what you're
screen
talking
and all
about.
that, they
Yeah.
should be able to do that. That's not,
Right.
that shouldn't be it.
And by the way, so Robin and Colin were both with me when we actually upgraded our website hosting service. And that was, they came in, it was a lot cheaper than this, and they gave us, here's how it can work. So definitely this is something that we should expect of this vendor.
Yeah, and I'm just, I agree with you 100% on the user experience, because I would be a user as a, a construction company or a resident, right?
Well, I could be the resident that doesn't know anything
Right.
and see how hard or easy it is to use.
Yeah,
Right.
as far as the proposal goes and all the technologies that I don't even know what I'm looking at, so that's really on our professionals to look that over. Okay. So I'll follow up in an email to Andy Sean. Well, I mean, they're looking into it, but.
Okay, so you guys will report back to the extent that there are developments between now and the next meeting.
And Colin
Okay,
also
great.
is like, he's in on it because again.
Colin's in on it.
But yeah, we did want to discuss it, so we're not passing a resolution until we have township committee input, our technology input, and then make the decision.
Great, okay, thank you guys. Doug, Cluckin Park.
Inching along, I still don't really have a public update yet, but things are seem to be trending in a positive direction.
Good. Colin.
Mayor, just one update. Altice, I did have a conversation with Marilyn Davis last week. They are continuing, and as you may recall, we asked them to consider looking at the cost for them to implement fiber in the hills. So they're developing a business case internally for that. Marilyn touched base with me last week to get some numbers and some additional demographics so she could use those in their internal case. And I'm glad to hear that she continues to advocate for that. So hopefully we'll be hearing resolution on that within the next couple of months. That would be a big win for our residents in the hills, if in fact they could have access to a high-speed broadband service provided via fiber through Altice. So more to follow, but encouraging sign.
Okay, good. And also just from both Colin and me, with our inquiries to Verizon and to AT&T, there's really no update from either Verizon or AT&T on either 5G or parallel expansions of fiber from any of those cable companies, or I want to call it Verizon Cable Company, or let's just call it the internet company. So we've no further updates on that, but we continue to push Optimum, Altice, Verizon, and AT&T on those very same issues. And Colin, there were a couple little outages we experienced over the last couple of weeks with JCP&L, but I assume those were all quick blips in and out.
Correct. So far so good, but we'll stay on top of that.
Okay. DOT improvements, this is for the River Road jug handle and Hills Drive. I have additional emails to our contacts at DOT, and I've yet to get a date from them as to when we can expect the improvements to move forward. But as soon as we do, we'll be posting it on the website and issuing a statement. So stay tuned on the DOT improvements. I did hammer down to our liaison down there that, with more folks driving, it's just more opportunities for incidents. See it all the time, confusion at that jug handle or blatant disregard of the no U-turn and people just doing it anyway. So the additional signage, I think, would be greatly appreciated and a super hopefully way of controlling safety out there. That's it for old business. Township committee comments. Committeeman Stevenson.
Well, thank you, Mayor. First comment was to congratulate Robin. Great job. Congratulations. The only thing I wanted to mention was last Thursday, I had the privilege of attending the graduation ceremony at the high school, and Bedminster continuing our run of valedictorians.
All right, who was it?
It was Noah Youssef.
All
I
right.
had the privilege of coaching Noah when he was a young boy, and I will just tell you that even back then, you could tell he was just a different creature. I mean, he was just so much more mature than the rest of the kids there, and not that it's not a put down on any other kids by any stretch. They were great group of kids to coach, but no, it was just on a different level. And so he's going to be going to NGIT on the accelerated medical program.
Oh, that's
So
great.
He's going to
Oh, how
be,
neat.
we'll be calling him doctor before too long. But I just want to say, you know, when we looked around, we were living in Scotch Plains and we were growing out of our Cape Cod house and needed more space. So we looked around and we got to looking at Bedminster and did the newspaper reports and looked in Bedminster. At the time, Berners was #1 in the state, the #1 ranked high school in the state. And so Susie and I looked at each other and said, all right, well, in 18 years, you know, maybe it won't be 1, but it's not going to be like 464. You know what I mean? So good, school system, great, you know, check the box, everything else landed. And having then had the opportunity to see my oldest go through that high school and, you know, just beyond impressive, you know, the academics off the charts, they went down the top 20. I didn't hear a Stevenson in there, but they went through the top 20 kids. And, but it was just like one great school after the next. And then they went through the accomplishments in the arts, right? And you heard the Madrigals sing the Star Spangled Banner. It brought goosebumps to you. Then they go through all the accomplishments with the sports. And it's just like at every step along the way, that high school is just doing wonderful, impressive, great things. It's not a public high school. It is, but it's not. It operates like a private school. It's such a treasure that we have here, and we should just be really, really thankful. So Dr. Nigel up there and the administration, thank you so much for what you do. All the class of 2021, congratulations. You're going to do great things. So just want to say that.
All right. Committeewoman Fernandez.
Okay, well, first I want to congratulate Tyler. Congratulations on the class of 2021 and congratulations to Robin on passing her test, although we didn't doubt for a second. And congratulations to Diane on her retirement. I want to officially thank her for all her years of service to Bedminster. And I just wanted to just comment on 2 things. So Renee, thank you for attending the Communities in Crisis event and reporting back. I think that the mental health impact of COVID will long outlast the virus. And I think it's just important to continue to provide available resources and information to our residents. So thank you for that. And then I just wanted to acknowledge the Freedom Day or Liberation Day, Juneteenth, commemorating the emancipation of the enslaved African Americans. Celebrations were held all over New Jersey, Green, Union, wherever. And I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge this newly recognized federal holiday.
Great. Thank you. Committeewoman Mareski.
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations, Robin. Congratulations, Tyler and Diane. We will miss you greatly. So we need to do something before she leaves. And I just want to say thank you to all our residents who come to our meetings and comment on what's going on or what's not going on. We need your eyes and ears out there, and we appreciate your time. And that's it.
Thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, again, Robin, congratulations. As everybody else said, great job, and you're going to do great things in the future. And speaking of great things in the future, just to echo Committeeman Stevenson's comments, Tyler Stevenson, URI bound from marine biology, quite an accomplishment. And when my daughter was a freshman in college, they all gave them T-shirts that said, "Oh, the places you'll go." And I think the same thing of all those young men and women who've gone through the Bedminster school system, then gone to Burns High School. Oh, the places you'll go. They're an amazing group. Congratulations again to the class of 2021, and congratulations, Tyler Stevenson. Job well done.
Thank you, Colin.
Congratulations to the Stevenson parents. Enough about Tyler. Doug and Susie, good job. You got him through there.
And now we got to pay for college.
Yeah.
I was in town hall I guess the late afternoon or early evening, picking up some materials from Bedminster, from their office, and that's when Robin received the news.
That's right. You were here. I just found out.
You would have thought that this was like a shock, like, oh my God, I guess. Because she was so excited, but you know, every one of us who knows you had no doubts at all. So once again, great job. Congratulations. Look forward to you as clerk with a long career, and you can shed that acting title that was that you were with since, what was that, March? And it's 9:58, so that's all I have for comments. We have no executive session. So I will take a motion to adjourn and we can get out of here now at 9:59.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Night, Colin. Travel
Bye,
safely
Colin.
back.
Good night, guys.
I'm gonna
Good
say-
night, all.
Good night.